Good evening, and welcome to the latest happenings inside our federal machine.
It's Friday, February 27th, 2026, and here's what happened today in the swamp. Former President Bill Clinton gave his testimony before the House Oversight Committee regarding his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. After the deposition, committee members dropped some surprising bombshells. President Trump also gives his opinion over Bill Clinton being subpoenaed to testify. And more high-profile individuals are resigning from their positions and going into hiding after their involvement with Jeffrey Epstein was brought to light. And Secretary Kristi Noem with the Department of Homeland Security has confirmed that DHS employees deliberately installed spyware on her primary computer. Representative Anna Paulina Luna is demanding answers. The GOP has confirmed that over 120,000 DHS employees, which includes the Coast Guard, TSA employees, FEMA employees, the Secret Service, and Cybersecurity employees, are not receiving a paycheck today because Democrats voted no on the bill that provides paychecks to Homeland Security. Republicans voted yes to funding DHS. It's that simple. Attorney General Pamela Bondi announced the Department of Justice has unsealed indictments charging a total of 39 anti-ICE protesters with violating the FACE Act after they stormed into a Minneapolis church, hijacking the service and intimidating churchgoers. FBI Director Kash Patel says 25 people were arrested today by the feds. And the Washington Post is back at it again, this time publishing a misleading article accusing U.S. Border Patrol of abandoning a refugee in the cold, which led him to die from exposure. President Trump orders all federal agencies to immediately halt the use of technology provided by a company known as Anthropic AI. The Department of War demanded the company not implement AI models that gives the company unrestricted military access, and Anthropic has refused to comply with the order. And we'll be diving into a lot of other stuff that happened, so don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for daily updates, which you probably won't see in the mainstream. If you drop a comment, I may just read it during tomorrow's episode. Well, actually Monday's episode, because I don't do the swamp over the weekend. Anyway, every article that I come across is linked in the description below. And the highlight clips from tonight's episode will begin dropping on the channel tomorrow morning around 8 a.m. Eastern. And we're going to start right here with Juanita Broaddrick, Bill Clinton's pre-deposition statement. We've seen him lie so many times on video. This time is no different.
Former President Bill Clinton has just released his opening statement in today's deposition regarding his ties to pedophile Jeffrey Epstein. Here it is in part, quote, "I had no idea of the crimes Epstein was committing. No matter how many photos you show me, I have two things that at the end of the day matter more than your interpretation of those 20-year-old photos. I saw nothing and I did nothing wrong. You often hear me say that I don't recall. That might be unsatisfying, but I'm not going to say something I'm not sure of." He is a person that we have seen on tape before lie to the nation.
Absolutely,
so
we have.
It's good to get him under oath. We'll all as a nation be able to see the transcript that gets released and the videotape, reportedly of his wife screaming during her deposition.
She was screaming.
It's not deposition, but interview yesterday. So we will see all of it
this
as
is
a nation.
Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton we're talking about.
This is a House committee hearing. Would it lead to something else? We don't know. But we will watch and cover it all here on Fox. Thank you for...
Okay, well, that's a fair question that I didn't think to bring up yesterday. The House GOP, they said that they will be releasing the video with Hillary Clinton's testimony, the full video, and they're also releasing the transcript, of which they were supposed to release today, but I didn't come across it. Maybe it's possible that I just didn't see it, although I somehow doubt it because I was looking all over the place today. Not for the transcript specifically. I was just keeping my eye on the news all day, and I didn't see it. Again, it's not to say that it's not out there, but if they do end up dropping it over the weekend, I'm sure I'll be doing a video on that over this weekend. So anyway, let's move on to the SCIF. Bill Clinton is cooked. He is already committing perjury in his opening statement. What kind of country are we if we let child traffickers and abusers walk? These monsters must be held accountable. And real quick, just to finish up my last thought, I don't know if they're actually going to release the video on Bill Clinton. They already said they're going to with Hillary Clinton, but are they going to invoke like a presidential privilege, or because he was a former sitting president, maybe that's something that they could justify not releasing the footage? I have no idea. Maybe it's up to either Bill Clinton or Hillary Clinton's discretion. Maybe it's up to their lawyers or something. I have no idea. Hopefully we'll get to see it, but at the very least, they said that we're going to be seeing Hillary Clinton's testimony at least. All right, so we've got the highlighted portion on the right. The text is too small. The X platform, it's stupid. It doesn't let me zoom in, so I just took a copy of former President Clinton's opening statement. So we'll just go through it so that way you can read it if you just happen to be watching this on a screen. And it starts in this section. It says, though my brief acquaintance with Epstein, and let's see where that's going to be. All right, so here it is. Though my brief acquaintance with Epstein ended years before his crimes came to light, and though I never witnessed during our limited interactions any indication of what was truly going on, I am here to offer what little I know so that it might prevent anything like this from ever happening again. And then it continues and highlighted in the next paragraph. But before we start, I have to get personal. You made Hillary Clinton come in. She had nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. Why didn't he just say you made my wife come in? I mean, that would have sounded a lot more personal. She has nothing to do with Epstein. Nothing. She has no memory of even meeting him. She neither traveled with him nor visited any of his properties. Whether you subpoenaed 10 people or 10,000, including her, was simply not right. Yeah, except that you traveled with y'all's daughter, Chelsea Clinton, to a wedding in Morocco, which was publicized, and there were images that were there, or that were taken, that were also made public. Of course, Hillary Clinton just conveniently wasn't there. So, look, to be fair, maybe she was Secretary of State at the time. Maybe she was, gallivanting, doing something else. God knows what. Although I think the public doesn't quite believe you that Hillary Clinton has not met Jeffrey Epstein one time after you've rendezvoused with Jeffrey Epstein himself, you and him flying to Epstein Island literally dozens of times, but Hillary Clinton has never met him, not one single time. I mean, Hillary Clinton yesterday went as far as to say that she knows literally nothing about Jeffrey Epstein, to the point where apparently Bill Clinton himself, her husband, never communicated a single thing about Jeffrey Epstein to her, ever. Even though that he's traveled with him dozens of times, in totality spent probably months with Jeffrey Epstein, but didn't come up in conversation, not a single time. Yeah, okay. All right, so it looks like we're going to go to the next page, and it's going to continue. First, I had no idea. All right, so here it is. First, I had no idea of the crimes Epstein was committing. No matter how many photos you show me, I have two things that at the end of the day matter more than your interpretation of those 20-year-old photos. I know what I saw, and more importantly, what I didn't see. I know what I did, and more importantly, what I didn't do. I saw nothing, and I did nothing wrong. All right, man, I guess, look, were there some of the photos that they just simply did not release because they were just like full-on nude, corn images? I'm trying to stay G-rated for YouTube, because I know YouTube gets mad when you start throwing out, words that adults actually use. But anyway, not so sure about all that. Although the photos that we've already seen in the public look already damning enough, and of course nobody's really going to believe that. However, if he's given testimony, then I guess it might be what it is. Although maybe the federal government has information that they could indict him with. Maybe it's just something that was too spicy to release to the public, that they had to redact too much of it to be able to release the images. I have no idea. I'm not even sure. I highly doubt that Bill Clinton's ever going to be indicted. I don't think anybody's going to be indicted for any of this. And the committee already said yesterday, after Hillary Clinton's testimony, that they don't have any ability to indict anybody or arrest anybody. They're just looking for answers. So not to say that this is really a waste of time, but I mean, if anybody's looking for any arrests or any convictions or prison time, then it sounds like we're just kind of wasting our time at this point. So this is from Bill Clinton. As someone who grew up in a home with domestic abuse, not only would I have flown on his plane if I had any inkling of what he was doing, I would have turned him in myself and led the call for justice for his crime, not sweetheart deals. Well, Bill Clinton doesn't have a squeaky clean history. I'm not talking about the whole Monica Lewinsky thing. That already speaks for itself. But apparently he was involved in illicit drug trades when he was the governor of Arkansas, which I didn't become familiar with until today. And I actually grabbed a video clip explaining that, which we'll get to here in a minute. But first, check this out. Shadow of Ezra. Boxes of pizza are now being delivered inside where Bill Clinton is testifying about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. You almost can't make this shit up. It is absolutely hilarious. Yesterday, Hillary Clinton said that they kept asking her questions about Pizzagate and UFOs. Sounds like they're probably doing the same thing with Bill Clinton today. And I don't even know. Maybe Bill Clinton himself said, well, speaking of all this pizza talk, I'm kind of hungry. Let's order some pizza. Anyway, let's take a look and watch them deliver pizza. Lots and lots of pizza. I mean, how many boxes, man? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They got 10 boxes of pizza. They got a bag of, I don't know what that is, breadsticks. They've got a small box on top, maybe dessert pastries or something. There's sound, but it's at an extreme minimum. So there's not that there's anything that you're going to hear anyway. I mean, it's just going to probably be just ambient background noise. So there you go. Literally delivering pizzas, probably at the exact same moment that they're questioning him about Pizzagate. Hilarious. From Fox News, Rep. Nancy Mace, former President Bill Clinton did attempt to respond to every single question asked, and when his attorneys told him, even when his attorneys told him to shut up.
Yes, I want
That's
to thank
surprising.
President Clinton for being here today. He was here for a very long day. He did attempt to respond to every single question asked, even when his attorneys told him to shut up. He kept, going. I think there's agreement too on everybody who is here on both sides of the aisle that we want to get to the bottom of this.
And Anna Paulina Luna doesn't look too pleased.
President Clinton for being here today. He was here for a very long day. He did attempt to respond.
Okay, yeah, that's right. It's a short clip. I forgot. I was like, wait a minute. Did we just hear that? Yeah, we just heard that. From Eric Daugherty, breaking in a bombshell moment, former President Bill Clinton testifies under oath that President Donald Trump was not involved with Jeffrey Epstein, according to his knowledge. Trump has never said anything to me to make me think he was involved with Epstein. Wow, cue the liberal meltdowns. Trump exonerated. Of course, that's just an opinion. Trump is not exonerated. I think in the eyes of the Democrats and the liberals and the progressives, I think that this isn't going to get through to them in any way at all. They're just going to keep insisting that Trump did literally anything and everything that they can possibly imagine negative that could have happened in any reality, any universe, any parallel universe. Trump did all of that, all at the same time, constantly, because evil orange man bad, Trump derangement syndrome.
President Clinton said, that's for you to decide. And the president went on to say that the president, Trump, has never said anything to me to make me think he was involved, and he meant with Epstein. So I know there's a lot of curiosity about President Trump. I thought that was an interesting thing that President Clinton said. So I'll let the Democrats have the podium and they can answer your questions, but we'll come.
Yeah, I would love to hear what they said after that. Like, that's not good enough. We still think Trump is infinity times more guilty than Bill Clinton, even though we've seen plenty of pictures of Bill Clinton, with what appears to be minors sitting on his lap, so on and so forth. From Nick Sorter, breaking, despite flying on Epstein's plane 27 times and appearing in countless photos with him, Bill Clinton, in his opening statement, says he has no idea what Epstein was doing. Even with 2020 hindsight, I saw nothing that ever gave me pause. Yeah, nobody believes that.
Mr. Chairman, good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Explain to us specifically what you need to hear from President Clinton today. What do you want to know?
Well, I think everyone's seen there are a lot of photos that have been released by the Department of Justice as well as the Epstein estate. There are a lot of email correspondence that included President Clinton. We know President Clinton had, and Secretary Clinton confirmed this yesterday, Jeffrey Epstein was in the White House 17 times. While Bill Clinton was president. We know that Bill Clinton flew on Jeffrey Epstein's plane at least 27 times. So those are questions that we're going to ask. Everything that most media outlets have reported with respect to pictures and correspondence between Epstein, Maxwell, and Bill Clinton, these are all questions that we're going to.
So Jeffrey Epstein visited Bill Clinton in the White House 17 times, and Hillary Clinton didn't bump into him a single time. Not once. Zero. Okay. Reb Comer confirms that Epstein visited the White House 17 times during Bill Clinton's presidency, including the 27 times Clinton was on the Lolita Express to his private island. Comer states, I didn't know what he was doing, will not fly. I hope they take him down to show at least an example of someone. If they can't get Bill Clinton, who can they get? So it's a longer video. This clip here, I honestly didn't even know if that was going to be at the beginning or the end because I don't watch these videos before I do the show. I just want to react as I see it. However, if it repeats and if I catch it, I'll skip it ahead a little.
Explain to us specifically what you need to hear from President Clinton today. What do you want to know?
Well, I think everyone's seen there are a lot of photos that have been. Jeffrey Epstein was in the White House. I ask everything that
all right, let's just go from there.
Most media outlets have reported with respect to pictures and correspondence between Epstein, Maxwell, and Bill Clinton. These are all questions that we're going to ask today.
Yesterday, you both told me that you were planning on asking about an email that Howard Lutnick sent to Jeffrey Epstein, I presume about a Hillary Clinton fundraiser. I think that was the one. He's worth asking about. Is he not worth asking in to talk about what he might know?
Yeah, and I think it'll be interesting when we hopefully get that video out later today or tomorrow as quick as we can get it out. I think it'll be interesting what Hillary Clinton said about Howard Lutnick.
And how she said it.
And how she said it. We looked, I think that was Miss Mace with the line of questioning. So there was a pretty thorough line of questioning yesterday between Miss Mace and Miss Clinton with respect to Lutnick. And I think you all find it very interesting what she had to say. But we're going to continue to ask questions of everyone that shows up in photos on the island and things like that. Yes.
Secretary.
I will be asking for him, yes.
You will.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Obviously, we heard from Secretary Clinton after her deposition. She described the session as repetitive. She said it veered off topic. She was asked about things like UFOs, Pizzagate. Can you explain why those topics were brought up, and also in light of the release of that photo?
And she also said there were substantive questions yesterday, too. But one reason there were repetitive questions about Epstein is because we went through every email and every correspondence that implied.
Well, she probably kept dancing around with her answers,
Epstein
too.
Communicated often. You all have seen the email where he said that she looks better in person and all of that. Those were questions we asked.
Well, and also, if you've ever seen a committee hearing, it's not just one representative that's asking 4 hours, 8 hours worth of questions. Each one gets roughly 5 minutes. I think in just about every case, they get 5 minutes to ask questions to the person in front of them. And they have, in most cases, a carefully crafted list of questions that they present to them. And they just use their 5 minutes accordingly. So, yeah, it's not crazy to think that multiple members are going to have roughly this similar, if not the same question to ask. So, I mean, it's not a crazy thing that just happened out of nowhere.
Every item of evidence that would suggest Hillary Clinton and Jeffrey Epstein had a close relationship, we went and asked about that. So it may have seemed repetitive because there was a lot of documentation that would suggest that she had a relationship with Epstein. So go ahead.
Clear, Secretary Clinton actually asked about the NDAA. Sorry.
Go ahead.
To be clear, Secretary Clinton actually asked us about what happened with the disclosure language in the NDAA. So, I mean, I know she's trying to pivot from the fact that she's here and she had a very close relationship regarding the Clinton Foundation and Epstein and Maxwell. But the point is, and I think I'd like to hit on this with probably Ms. Mace here, but I think we have a very important interest and curiosity about what specifically the co-conspirators had a role in all this, right? We know for a fact that some of these were women, and I think that today, at least with my line of questioning, I'm curious about that. Why is it that these women were given plea deals as adults for trafficking minors? How much of that did they witness, et cetera? And so, I don't know that Secretary Clinton was all that honest about the context of this investigation. We asked extensively about intelligence ties, whether or not she felt that she was targeted as a result of possibly an intelligence gathering operation. And she was very curiously interested in that. And then also, you'll hear it in the response, but had told us to follow up with a few countries, one of which is our ally. So that's interesting.
And I think Ms. Luna brought up a good point about the Clinton Foundation. There's so many examples in the evidence the Department of Justice released in correspondence where Epstein bragged about how involved he was initially in setting up the Clinton Global Initiative and the Clinton Foundation. We asked those questions to Secretary Clinton yesterday, and she kept saying, well, she was in the Senate at that time. She wasn't focused on it. You'll have to ask my husband. So a lot of the Clinton Global Initiative questions yesterday went unanswered because Ms. Clinton deferred to her husband. So
in other words, that's what we're asking.
Annie, go ahead.
Today.
Yeah, it's our understanding that you guys asked Secretary Clinton yesterday about photos of her husband in the Epstein files. What was her reaction when you showed various photos, for example, of her husband in the jacuzzi that we've seen?
I'm going to let Miss Mace answer that. We're on TV.
Okay, I'm not going to say anything. No, she didn't want to answer any questions about any of that.
What is that supposed to mean? I thought we were going to get the testimony video.
All those questions to her husband, and he will be thoroughly asked about that today. You know, what did he know? What did he see?
Maybe that's why they insisted on having it behind closed doors. Maybe because they were going to show somewhat shocking images that would not have flown on C-SPAN. Maybe
because there are other people who've come forward publicly, like Kevin Spacey, who thought all of this was very strange and actually a very high risk for a president of the United States or former president. It's all very bizarre, but I asked her very pointed questions, and you'll see that in the transcript in the video that comes out, and you'll see how she responded.
Kevin friggin'
as well,
Spacey.
Screaming.
And
Okay.
we'll close with this. We're going to get the video out as quickly as we can get it uploaded in the sound and everything from yesterday. So this is, for all practical purposes, a public deposition. The American people are going to see it. I've heard C-SPAN's going to air it wire to wire. So
then why have it behind closed doors, dude?
And I think that'll answer a lot of questions, especially with Lutnick and other things like that. Throughout the day, we'll try to send different members out to give you brief updates. We don't want to disclose what's going on in the deposition specifically.
We're going to see it anyway
at the conclusion, but we'll keep you updated, and we appreciate everyone being here and look forward to updating you throughout the day.
Ms. Mace, what do you mean that Hillary Clinton was screaming?
She was unhinged, and I hope that President Clinton is less unhinged today than his wife was yesterday. You'll see it.
Oh, man, I hope so.
Why do you think she had a relationship with Mr. Epstein?
Well, he was basically instrumental, for his words, and I think you'll find out from Clinton probably today, in sending up the Clinton Global Initiative.
President Trump said that he was bothered by Bill Clinton coming in.
The biggest thing is we need transparency, accountability, and we need justice for the victims, and we need to make sure we find out how can we write laws to prevent human trafficking and prevent people of that evil level infiltrating the highest levels of government. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I'm not so sure if that's going to be possible to do that in its totality. After all, the Biden administration allowed 450,000 children to go missing in the country, and nobody really seemed to give a shit back when that was going on. So, yeah, I didn't put the videos in perfect order. My bad. And that's okay. Either way, they provided some very interesting info, though. But regardless, I think the public would like to see the full testimony for themselves. I mean, it's ridiculous that they insisted the deposition be behind closed doors in the first place. And Bill and Hillary Clinton, they did say that they wanted the hearings in public. However, it wouldn't surprise me to learn that it was their lawyers, perhaps, who insisted that behind closed doors hearings take place so they could omit certain details or certain moments from the deposition. Or maybe not. Perhaps it was the committee who insisted on the behind closed doors hearing. Either way, it's ridiculous because the Epstein Files Transparency Act, which states that anything and everything with regard to Jeffrey Epstein and all the investigations and all the files and all the photos and videos and everything has to be made public except the victims' identities. All right, so from the New York Post, Megyn Kelly shares a decades-old photo of Clinton allegedly ogling her young friend hours before Epstein testimony. Yikes. So apparently one of these girls is Megyn Kelly. Is that what's happening? Is that Megyn Kelly? Is that Megyn Kelly? I don't know. I don't think so. It didn't really look like her. Okay, so Megyn Kelly claims a decades-old photo of former President Bill Clinton shows him looking down the chest of one of her young friends, sharing it just hours before he is due to testify Friday about his association with late pedo Jeffrey Epstein. Former Fox News anchor flashed up the image of Clinton from 1999 when he was still president, telling her viewers that it showed him ogling her friend at the Bombay Club in Washington, D.C. soon after he was impeached over the Monica Lewinsky scandal. I'm not saying this is a crime, she stressed on her Megyn Kelly show Thursday, claiming it instead showed Clinton hadn't changed even after getting impeached. Yeah, it definitely kind of looks like that he is looking down in a certain direction. Obviously. I mean, where the hell else is he looking? Of course he's looking down at her chest. All right, so yeah, no, that's not Megyn Kelly. Obviously, that she said that to her friend. That ain't Megyn Kelly either. I don't think so. I think she's older than that. But don't tell her I said that. Bill was not shamed at all after the Monica Lewinsky scandal out of his hound dog behavior, to put it mildly. Yes, he is looking down the chest of my friend, Meg Florence, and that's my other friend in the foreground, Abby Rittman. So there you go. He's basically got his hand on her side boob. Kelly alleged of this snap. Kelly claimed Clinton brazenly posed for the photo in the middle of the restaurant while his wife Hillary and their daughter Chelsea were in tow. Yikes. Okay, yeah, that's kind of creepy, Bill Clinton. Very creepy. All right, Quiet Patriot, the truth about Bill and Hillary Clinton, the two most evil politicians to ever be in office next to Pelosi and Biden. Uh-oh, this might get spicy.
So I've written a book, Clinton, Bush, and CIA Conspiracies, and I researched the hell out of the Clinton crime family, and that's what led me to Epstein. So he was a serial rapist and cokehead going back to when he was the governor of Arkansas. And it was the CIA, they wanted the sleaziest, most corrupt governor to choose that state to smuggle the white powder in from South America.
So the movie American Made, that Tom Cruise movie, I think I got the name of the movie right, American Made, that seems to come to mind because I think it was in Arkansas, right? I'm pretty sure it was in Arkansas where he was given that abandoned military base or airport or whatever it was that was out in the middle of nowhere that was handed to him by the CIA, and he started flying in tons of coke. I'm pretty sure that it's right up this alley, that he's probably talking about that exactly.
To finance these wars against the communists in Nicaragua. And Bill Clinton provided the state security
Contras or
for
whatever.
the drug drops. And his own brother, half-brother, Roger Clinton, was busted buying coke from an undercover cop and recorded saying, some of this is for Bill. He's got a nose like a vacuum cleaner.
Wow.
And that cop knew if he didn't out that arrest really quickly, it would all get covered up. So they put Roger Clinton in prison to show that no one is above the law.
Wow.
And the Clintons are moral, upstanding pillars.
We know Democrats are going to say, this guy's a kook. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He doesn't have any proof.
Meanwhile, he's
got
multiple allegations of women, sexual assaults, and Hillary Clinton tracked a lot of these women down with private investigators, threatened their lives, pets were murdered, people were thrown off balconies, and this is the genesis of the hashtag Clinton body count.
Right.
They had a coroner, Fahmy Malek, who, when Bill's mum had accidentally unalived someone when she was working in the medical profession, Fahmy Malek had come in and he adjusted the cause of death. So Bill Clinton owed him for the rest of his life.
Wow.
And Fahmy Malek would come in, and if you had been shot in the head or if someone had strangled you, he would say that you drowned in a swimming pool. I've done a whole chapter on those in Clinton, Bush, and CIA Conspiracies.
Holy moly, that is wild. I didn't know about all that with regards to that. I've definitely heard of the Clinton body count. I mean, who hasn't heard of that? I mean, the conspiracies around the Clintons are just, it seems like the rabbit holes are infinitely deep, it would seem. Shadow of Ezra, a former advisor to the Clinton administration, blows the whistle, claiming that Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton both visited Zorro Ranch multiple times to meet with Jeffrey Epstein. He says there is evidence, including photos of her with Epstein. He is not Schmeichel, by the way, which, of course, you know, YouTube can't say that on here for some stupid reason. I would like to know if those, are you going to release those images? I mean, because I'm sure the public would certainly like to see those, because it would absolutely prove that Hillary Clinton is a liar under oath. That would certainly be helpful to see.
Ghislaine Maxwell was at her daughter's wedding, and her story now is, oh, she was a +1. Well, who was she the +1 with as the pimp-in-chief for Jeffrey Epstein? And the alleged 13-year-old girl, her entire testimony was discounted by the FBI after investigation because it supposedly happened again when she was 13 or 15 at Hilton Head Island with no evidence whatsoever to back up her claims, and she was determined to be really kind of off mentally. So, again, the left keeps wanting to throw Bill Clinton aside while focusing on Donald Trump. It was Jeffrey Epstein who went to the White House 17 times, with Hillary always out of town. Bill and Hillary went to the Zorro Ranch multiple times, and she never met Jeffrey Epstein there. There are pictures of her with Jeffrey Epstein while she claims, both in apparently her sworn testimony and afterwards, she never met the man. So are we supposed to believe our lying eyes or Hillary Clinton?
I guess the difference is she's saying, I don't remember meeting him. Maybe that's one of those small legalese phrases, which means that she gets off swinging off a massive giant hook.
Of
Steve,
course.
do you think there's been any justice served for the victims?
That's how they play those games under testimony.
But so many of these people who write these long books detailing their time in office or as a camp, they can remember everything when they're writing a book. But when it's a tough question, I can't remember ever meeting the man, and her statement afterwards and her lawyer's statement was definitive. I never met the guy. That's not true.
Well, yeah, because you can't prove somebody's memory. You just can't prove it. You can't like go into the operation of somebody's mind and know what it is that they're thinking, and you can't just like actually search their images, obviously, or their memories. But until we see the photos for ourselves, I don't exactly buy it. But of course, the Clintons and the Democrats, if the images are released, they'll probably just say, that's just AI, bro. That's just a deep fake AI image. Because it seems to be the direction that we're probably heading. If AI does get to the point where you just cannot tell fiction from reality anymore, whenever there's photos or videos that are placed out in the public, then I don't even know what's going to happen, man. That's going to get really, really sketchy. Like a rewriting history, like a history written by the victors kind of thing comes to mind. If the Democrats just railroad us into this communism, totalitarian hellhole, then they just start rolling out with all this like deep fake AI stuff that just starts just trying to rewrite history as we know it. Wouldn't surprise me at all. I mean, I'm sure there's probably some connection there with Orwell's 1984. All right, Jesse Waters, breaking: Obama and Clinton operative Larry Summers has resigned from Harvard amid his ties to Epstein. Bill Gates just confessed to flying on Epstein's plane and having 2 affairs with Russian women. Even the ex-Norwegian prime minister who handed Obama his Nobel Peace Prize is being investigated for taking gifts and traveling and taking loans from none other than Jeffrey Epstein.
Fox News alert: the Epstein blast radius is expanding, and more names added to the list. Larry Summers,
blast
the top
radius
operative for
expands.
Clinton and Obama, today announced he's resigning
for the nuclear
from Harvard
fallout
at the end of the year after getting exposed in the files. And Bill Gates is saying sorry. In a town hall at his foundation yesterday, he confessed to having 2 affairs with Russian women while married to his now very wealthy ex-wife, and admitted to flying on Epstein's plane and spending time with him in the U.S. and abroad. But he maintains he did nothing illicit. The billionaire said he met with Epstein starting in 2011, years after Epstein had pleaded guilty in 2008 to soliciting a
why would
minor
that be?
for prostitution.
Bill Gates.
Gates said he was aware of some 18-month thing that had limited Epstein's travel, but said he didn't properly check his background.
Yeah, okay.
And we're finding out
Mr.
US
Computer
Virgin
Guru.
Islands Democrat Governor
All right.
Albert Bryan Jr. apparently gave Epstein special treatment just before his arrest.
Well, of course he did.
Epstein with a construction problem he had on Pedophile Island. The global fallout continues. Prince Andrew was first. Now his ex-wife is keeping a low profile, bouncing between properties, even checking into one of the world's most expensive wellness clinics. Reports say she maintained contact with Epstein after his release from prison and even introduced him to her goddaughter. The pressure on Andrew isn't going away. Whistleblowers now alleging he spent taxpayer money on massages. Earlier this month,
oh, no.
Prince Andrew
Happy ending
was
massages.
kicked out of his home, the Royal Lodge, and he didn't take it too well. According to the Daily Mail, he shouted, "You can't do this.
He hasn't paid rent in 2 decades.
I'm the Queen's son."
He's a freeloader.
Remember, Andrew stepped back from royal duties in 2019. Why is he still living on royal property? The Times of London obtained a copy of his lease. Apparently, he hasn't paid rent in 2 decades. He's an international embarrassment. Pranksters hung the prince's arrest photo inside the Louvre in Paris. The Epstein bomb is hitting every corner of the earth. Norway's former prime minister, you know, the one who awarded Obama the Nobel Peace Prize?
Yeah, for doing absolutely literally nothing.
Mr. Human Rights was just charged with gross corruption. They're investigating if he accepted gifts, travel, and loans from Epstein. He says he's innocent, but he's in the files, telling Epstein this: if Trump wins, I'll settle on your island. And he just checked himself into a hospital due to the strain arising in the wake of this case. Maybe he could visit Fergie at that wellness hospital. Now, the British government is about to unseal more documents tied to the former ambassador to the U.S., Peter Mandelson, who was arrested in the Epstein investigation. New emails appear to show Mandelson leaking sensitive information to Epstein. He also says he's innocent, but here he is in the files in his underwear.
Well.
Why do we
I remember
know so
seeing
little?
that.
Well,
that image when it came out.
documents show that in July 2019, days after Epstein was arrested, the FBI told the NYPD's sex crimes unit to, quote, stand down. Quote, FBI reached out to NYPD leadership already, and they were told that SUV has been directed to stand down and that all Epstein stuff needs to go to and through us. This was right after Epstein was arrested, as New York prosecutors were actively trying to interview victims, build cases, look at co-conspirators. Why cut them out right then?
Right.
Is that
Why?
Standard procedure or
that's kind of weird.
Something else? Plus, a 2020
it's almost
DOJ
as if there were insiders in the FBI.
To a confidentiality agreement that the chief medical examiner signed in connection with the murder of Jeffrey Epstein.
Why? What the hell?
His death was ruled a suicide. So why was the DOJ using murder internally? And why was the chief
well, yeah,
medical
that's a good question
examiner
too.
being forced to sign an NDA?
I was just thinking about strangulation.
Autopsy? We may be about to learn even more. New reporting suggests Epstein may have stored documents in storage units across the U.S., potentially containing materials the public's never seen. And tomorrow, Hillary is scheduled to testify in a closed-door, recorded deposition. Friday, bills up. Hopefully they get their story
There you go.
straight.
Yeah, secret documents in a storage unit. Maybe not. I guess maybe we'll hear about that. Maybe not. I would like to hope to think that the DOJ would release that if it were true and if they actually have those files. And Obama getting a Nobel Peace Prize for doing absolutely nothing whatsoever just signals to me that Democrats have been working with European and Western elites for a long time to usher in this one world government, globalism, the 2030 Great Reset, until Trump came along in 2015 and ruined everything. They want us to own nothing and be happy by 2030. But elements of the Great Reset did roll out, though, such as subscription services, Adobe, for example, also Xbox, pushing to eliminate game discs, and you have to download the game. Basically, you don't own the game that you bought, and also you have to pay monthly to access your heated seats and your heated steering wheel, and if you want your car to go 25 horsepower faster, you have to pay monthly for it. Lots of nonsense, and thank God the public has been pushing back on all that. All right, so Overton window. President Trump stuns the media when asked about Bill Clinton's deposition. Are you concerned at all about President Bill Clinton being deposed and that sets precedent for you and your family? So let's hear from President Trump.
I don't like seeing him deposed, but, they certainly went after me a lot more than that. I don't like seeing him. Look, I like him, and I don't like seeing him deposed.
Well, I'm not sure why you would say that. I think the public at large really wanted to see him deposed and try to see what answers he would get. Not that I think many people had any faith that anything was going to come out of it. Okay, so we're going to move on past the Epstein stuff with Bill Clinton, and we'll go to the next question that was asked when Trump was taking questions from reporters, because he went to, I believe it was Corpus Christi, Texas today. So he had a day where he left Washington, went down to Texas and gave a speech and toured a couple of places. Reporter Governor Pritzker posted on social media that you're planning to steal the 2026 midterm elections. How do you respond to Governor Pritzker?
Governor Pritzker posted on social media that you're planning to steal the 2026 midterm elections. In fact, he says the plan is already underway. How do you respond to Governor Pritzker?
Well, he's got to focus on crime in his state. The crime in his state is doing very badly.
He's full of shit. How about that?
If we went and took care of it, we would do just like Washington, D.C. We have no crime. Memphis, it's down 82%. Louisiana, you take a look at Louisiana. What he should really do is focus on crime in his state, because there's too much of it.
Or how about Governor Pritzker focus on his voter rolls and cleaning those up and removing multiple addresses that belong to each person voting, because people don't stay at the same address forever. A lot of people move around, and make it so that you're not sending the same ballot to the same person to multiple different addresses, and then people can just go and ballot harvest, because I'm pretty sure that's legal in Illinois, as well as most, if not all, Democrat states. And also cleaning up the voter rolls to get all the dead people off of the voter rolls, and so on and so forth. But of course, they don't want to do all that. Anyway, so from the president on talks with Iran. So we'll just hear it straight from him about Iran.
No, I'm not. I'm not happy with the fact that they're not willing to give us what we have to have. So I'm not thrilled with that. We'll see what happens. We're talking later. We'll have some additional talks today. But no, I'm not happy with the way they're going.
Okay, about Iran, we've got a few follow-ups with Iran coming up. And the president hands a U.S. Marine a presidential challenge coin before taking off for Texas. All right, well, that was nice of him. Not sure why that happened. Not sure if we'll ever know why he got the coin and why didn't the other Marine get a coin? Or maybe he gave both coins to the one Marine and he's like, he'll give you the other one. Or I don't even know. Or whatever. So that happened today. Eric Doherty, LMFAO, President Trump just showed off to the fake news a seized tanker brought in from Venezuela and then walked off scene. You want to see something nice? Come here. Look at that. Right out of Venezuela. Let's take a look at this.
See something nice? Come here. Look at that. Right out of Venezuela. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you, everybody.
Right out of Venezuela. Hilarious. Big ass tanker. And from Jack, my word, Stephen A. Smith just went on a heater. He went down the list and ended the careers of every single potential 2028 Democrat candidate. Says none of them have a chance. This might be the most brutal clip I have ever watched. And then they've got a bunch of quotes. Let's hear from him.
I don't believe any of them have a chance of winning. We can go down the list. Gavin Newsom, here you are. And we saw what you just said, whether people believe it or not, or, because you got folks on the left trying to defend them, fine. Crime, homelessness, affordability,
on the shitter.
Debt in California, please. You got to convince me. Oh, so you want us to let you run the country, but we see what's happening in California. No. Good luck with that.
Yeah, good luck with
Harris,
that.
That's where you come from. You didn't even want to run for the governor's seat in California. You should have been able to win that one. You didn't want that. Okay, we saw what happened during the election. You had 107 days. Biden put you at a disadvantage. That's all true. But your interview on The View sealed your fate. When they asked you, is there anything that you would do differently than Biden? You're like, no, I can't think of anything. Wow. Nobody's letting that go. And back to Gavin Newsom. Everybody talked about, you need to move to the center to some degree. Look at it that way.
That ain't happening.
2 weeks later, you're on scene on TV talking about when it comes to transgenders, transitioning from male to female, even if they're children, you really have no problem with that, with them doing such a thing without parental consent. I've said this to numerous people who would listen. If my child is underage, you can't come to my child to tell my child to walk down the street.
Hell no.
To the store without my permission. No. How in God's name you think you can do something that serious without parental consent?
Absolutely.
Are you kidding me? That is just utterly ridiculous. That kind of soundbite is going to be held against them. So I think that those two right there, they hurt themselves immensely. And I don't think the Democrats wanted Kamala Harris. And I think that
well, they're not going to back off that either. They're just going to double down.
You saw her write in her book. She didn't feel like she was completely supported. So how you going to suddenly get the support for 2028 if you could have get in 2024? That ain't going to work. Pete Buttigieg, as I said on Real Time with Bill Maher, he doesn't move us.
Yeah.
He just doesn't move us.
It's too damn
just
cringe.
That simple. All right. And then you have Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC. I respect her. I respect her passion.
She has low IQ,
what she
man.
Tries to do for her constituency.
She'll get wrecked in a debate.
That clip of her in Munich was one of the most embarrassing
just a little
videos we may have seen.
Would and should
Thank you for showing
the U.S. actually commit U.S. troops to defend Taiwan if China were to move?
Here, let me go back. Sorry, I was firing off my stupid mouth.
Have seen.
Would and should the U.S. actually commit U.S. troops to defend Taiwan if China were to move?
I think that this is such a, I think that this is a, this is of course a very long-standing policy of the United States, and I think what we are hoping for is that we want to make sure that we never get to that point, and we want to make sure that we are moving in all of our economic, research and our global positions to avoid any such confrontation and for that question to even arise.
Dude, they are pro-CCP. The Democrats are pro-CCP. They envy them. They want to be them. They respect them immensely. That's why she stuttered so badly with regard to Taiwan, because China wants to take over Taiwan. China recognizes Taiwan as a part of China, that Taiwan is not an independent country. And a lot of Democrats have echoed the same thing, that they refuse to admit that Taiwan is an independent sovereign nation. And they have stuck to that. And I'm sure AOC views it the same exact way. So let's continue.
Listen, when Mitch McConnell, the former Senate Majority Leader, froze. Ladies and gentlemen, we were wondering whether or not he had a stroke.
Remember that too.
We know he's old. We know there are health issues.
Yeah.
That is a vibrant young lady. That is AOC.
Yeah.
Okay? That was not a health issue. You
Right.
were not prepared. You did not know what you were talking about. And the work.
No, look, yeah, that definitely played a part in it. But she knows that she's got to toe the Democrat line, that you have to be pro-CCP. You don't want to get on their bad side, because when Democrats take over for the long haul, when they seize power to the point where Democrat or Republicans can never have a chance in hell at ever getting reelected again, because they've stacked up the deck so far up against them that they just don't have a chance, regardless of how many people wind up voting for Republicans. They want to cozy up to China to try to bring about this whole like New World Order or whatever the hell that they plan on happening in the future. I don't know.
Now, if they had walked up to
I'm
you
just
on
very
stage,
suspicious with them.
You know, if they had walked up to you while you walking the streets of the Bronx and just stuck a camera and a microphone in your face and you were caught off guard, that would be different. No, you flew across the world. You flew across the ocean to attend this conference.
You're specializing in that.
Specializing in that.
Yeah.
And that was your answer. You can't get around that, and the Republicans are going to have a field day playing that at every turn. Do I believe she has a shot to win a Senate seat over Chuck Schumer down the line? Yes. But her as a world figure, nah. They're going to hold that against her forever.
Yeah, Republicans are going to hold it against them forever. However, look, that's not the only thing that they've got. I mean, there was also one of those town hall meetings, I think it was during the COVID era, where people were extremely pissed off about how draconian things were getting. And she held a town hall to try to kind of bring down the tension a little bit. And people were like screaming at her. And she started fucking dancing on stage. She started dancing like a lunatic. It was insane. And that's also not the only instance. AOC's got a whole bunch of different ridiculous things that she's done. Plus, in my opinion, I think she's fairly low IQ. I don't think that she would stand a chance debating a seasoned conservative Republican who's running for president, of all things. Like imagine AOC against someone like J.D. Vance for in 3 separate debates running for president. I just don't think she'd stand a chance. And a lot of people, they sway their vote on debates. Not everybody, maybe not even most people, but I'm sure there's probably a lot of independents who probably they pull one way or the other depending on the outcome of those debates, because a lot of people, they just don't pay attention to politics every day. They got to raise their families, they got to go to work, they've got other things to do, so they just kind of pack all of their political decisions into 3 separate debates during the fall of election season. So anyway, Define L's RFK Jr. I know Democrats are human beings and that they care about the same things that I do. I've known all of these people for 40 years.
To me, it's weird because I know Democrats are human beings and they care about the same things that I do. I've known all of these guys, almost all of them, for many of them for 40 years. Bernie Sanders, I've known for 40 years. Their only solution is more money to the system, a system that is broken, that is making us sicker and sicker. And what President Trump wants to do is he wants to fix the system.
Well, yeah, because the Democrats, for one, they're lazy, and they just want to take the path of absolute least resistance because they want to do virtually no work at all. I mean, why do you think they want to bring about communism so they don't have to do anything? And they're just plain old-fashioned greedy. And they just essentially just want to give the lobbyists and all these major companies that donate to them, they just want to give them whatever the hell they want. And they just want to sit around and do pretty much just about nothing. Eric Daugherty, wow. Democrat Senator Alyssa Slotkin reveals the Democrat Party's new strategy is hoping the American people are too ignorant to realize they didn't stand up when Trump said we should protect citizens over illegal aliens. The average American won't track who stands. What's your platform? Put illegals first, then bank on Americans being too dumb to realize who prioritizes them. Freaking disgusting party.
You know, people like me didn't stand for most of the things that he was talking about, unless it was a Medal of Honor winner, you know, the visitors, the people who came.
Insider trading. I will give that to Democrats. I don't know if most of them stood up, but it appeared that at least half of them stood up when they mentioned insider trading.
And it was a stunt, right? It's a political stunt. The president, again.
Well, of course it was a political stunt, but it was a very simple answer. And there is absolutely no reason that Democrats shouldn't have stood up on that, because it was a simple statement that you have given an oath to represent American citizens first. And then, of course, the political part was above illegal immigrants. You know, yeah, that was the political statement. But regardless, I mean, that's the whole crux of the entire issue, that you have been standing more for illegal immigrants than anybody else. Because at this point, you don't care about the American citizens because they're here regardless. You want to keep all the illegal immigrants here so you can add them to your totals so you can secure more congressional seats.
Uses these things as sort of a political campaign or a political stump speech rather than an actual statement on where the country is. And I just was not going to participate in that kind of stunt. And they did it for this reason. And now they're posting about it. The average American,
because you put American citizens second.
Who stands? They want to know what the plan is to put more money in their pocket. They tune in for maybe the first, 8 minutes probably on average. So that to me was just a political stunt.
Well, it was a very effective one. It was a very good one because it definitely hit the highlight reel, that's for sure. Catherine Clark, a Democrat, Whip, and Kay Clark, so she's the Whip. And she says, Democrats are fighting to make life more affordable for working families. How is that? Because last time I checked, the blue states are by far the most expensive states to live in, especially the major cities inside blue states are the most expensive places to live, probably on the entire planet. Republicans hiked costs and took health care away from millions while giving billionaires another tax cut. We are on the American people's side. So I actually haven't followed up to the answer to this question at Grok. Is it true that everyone got a tax cut? Which I didn't want to follow up with saying like not just the billionaires, because I think that part's kind of obvious. No, not literally everyone. Nonpartisan Tax Policy Center data shows the 2017 TCJA cut federal income taxes for 65% of households, raised them for 6%, and left the rest unchanged. Most middle and working class filers benefited via double standard deduction and child tax credit, with average cuts around $1,000 to $2,000 for many. Higher earners got larger absolute cuts due to rate reductions and pass-through deductions, but claims of only billionaires ignored the broad individual relief confirmed by TPC, JCT, and IRS statistics. Recent extensions follow similar patterns per independent analyses. Okay, well, there you go. I think that was a fairly satisfying answer. I mean, the whole 2017 thing, I definitely remember that when Trump did his first tax cuts, because I actually did notice my paycheck went up by I think it was about $50 a paycheck. And yeah, that was kind of nice. Although I was more interested in the tax cuts that were brought about from the big, beautiful bill. But anyway, whatever. I'm not going to follow up with that. There's too much to go through. Senate Republicans lying Graham Plattner. Graham Plattner claims to be a World War II buff, but says he didn't know the meaning behind his Nazi tattoo. Quote, you keep sort of dodging around it. I'd just like you to admit that you got a Nazi tattoo, which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Graham Plattner, he's running for a political position. I think he's in Maine, whether if he's running for governor or senator. I can't remember exactly which he's running for. But yeah, he had a very distinct Nazi tattoo. It was like some like an eagle or some like iron eagle or something. It wasn't the swastika specifically, but it was some like blatant symbolism that the Nazi party used that he got tattooed on his chest. And of course, when he announced that he was running, somebody shared an image of a tattoo that he has on his chest, which went crazy viral virtually overnight. And it wasn't the very next day. It was like 10 days after that broke, he got the tattoo removed, quote unquote removed. He just essentially had like a big black square just covering up over it. And I find that to be quite interesting that, I mean, actually, it may be interesting, but it's not surprising at all that somebody who's a Democrat who's running has Nazi tattoos on them. That doesn't shock me at all.
Graham, just wanted to press you a little more, about the tattoo.
This is hilarious. It's a far leftist progressive that's going to press him on the Nazi tattoo. That is brilliant, because they should be questioning this, because they're all about being anti-Nazis, right? They're all they hate the Nazi party. What do they say? Like punch a fascist or what? Or punch a Nazi. That's what they say. And they're very clearly on the left, which is blatantly obvious given the septum piercing that you notice that they've got shoved into their nostrils.
You continually refer to it as a skull and crossbones, and I would just like to ask you, as a World War II buff, if you know what they call that symbol, if you know what the name of it is.
I do now.
Oh, bullshit.
And
I've read, it's a Totenkopf, and I have read.
So what do you mean you do now? Because if you're a World War II history buff, I mean, that was
you would have known.
I mean, you ever seen Indiana Jones or like? Oh yeah. In a lot of movies, you know what I mean. So
well, in Indiana Jones, it's centered around a lot of Nazi stuff.
I was
at least the third one.
Well aware.
Or no, the first one too.
They used a similar looking thing.
No, Graham. You have to admit it's not a similar looking thing. It's the same.
It's the same thing.
Oh yeah.
And
no, it's like when put.
You
just
keep
admit it,
dodging
dude.
Around it, but
I'm not trying to dodge.
You think Nazis are cool?
You got a Nazi tattoo and just apologize instead of saying it could be interpreted that way. I
can't because I didn't.
Oh, dude, I hope these far leftists. I hope they pass this clip around everywhere. Everywhere. This has got to follow him because he keeps dodging it. You just got to get out in front of it and just admit it. Just say, yeah, I had a fascination with Nazis and my stupid ass was young. I got a tattoo because, there's a lot of liberal people who use that I was young and stupid excuse. I mean, people use that all the time. Anyway, Senate Republicans, a guy with a Nazi tattoo promoting a Holocaust denier? Shocking. Maine Democrat Graham Plattner boosts Holocaust-denying white supremacist. Plattner, who recently covered up a Nazi tattoo, spread an Iran-related social media post from anti-Semite Stu Peters. Let's see if they have this, and if the article is not linked, then I will look for it. They do. I'm glad, because Senate Republicans, they usually do, I think. Oh, so they're going to paywall me, huh? Actually, no, it doesn't look like they're going to. So let's see what happens. Let me zoom back in, and let's see what we got here. Maine Democratic Senate candidate Graham Plattner, so he's running for the Senate, not governor, Senate, who recently covered up a tattoo of a Nazi symbol on his chest, promoted a notoriously anti-Semitic white supremacist who denies the Holocaust, Stu Peters. Plattner boosted a post by Peters, who has an extensive track record of anti-Semitism and Holocaust denialism, about a potential attack on Iran. Peters, who has nearly 900,000 followers on X, asserted that war with Iran is the only issue that brings Democrats and Republicans together. Plattner, who is running to unseat Senator Susan Collins, a Republican, echoed those remarks, accusing both parties of sending other people's children to die in stupid wars in the Middle East. Plattner deleted his post after social media users pointed out Peters' history of anti-Semitic rhetoric. It's so funny. It's like this dude is like an anti-Semite / Nazi just by nature. Like he just can't help but just react to these posts because it's so ingrained in him at this point. So Graham Plattner for Senate. Here, let's read the Stu Peters one first. War with Iran is the only thing Republicans and Democrats have both given a standing ovation for. Let that sink in. And then Graham Plattner says, as always, there's one thing that brings Republican and Democratic politicians together, sending other people's children to die in stupid wars in the Middle East. Anyway, Peters has claimed that the Jews are behind many domestic and geopolitical catastrophes, including the assassination of former President John F. Kennedy. Quote, everywhere you look, every stone you turn, you find a you-know-what, Peters said in one podcast the Washington Free Beacon reported. President John F. Kennedy was assassinated, Peters added. He was murdered by Jews and their shabos, I don't even know, in the U.S. government and in the CIA. They walk around on leashes and so on and so forth. This is probably too hot to read for YouTube, but it's right there. You can read it. Plattner's promotion of Peters comes as the Democratic candidate has faced scrutiny over other controversial remarks he made on social media and a tattoo of a Nazi skull. Okay, it wasn't an eagle, it was a skull. He received during his stint in the army. Plattner got a Totenkopf, a tattoo popular with Nazis during World War II while serving in the Marines in 2007. Plattner claimed last year that he was unaware of the historical significance until a reporter asked him about it. However, several Plattner associates have said that Plattner openly talked about my Totenkopf and seemed to know that it was a Nazi relic. So of course he knew. Plattner hired a tattoo artist to cover up the Nazi ink just days later. Yeah, I think it was like 10 days later. Plattner has also alienated many of the voters he hopes to represent in Maine. In 2018, he responded to a Reddit comment that, quote, white people aren't as racist or stupid as Trump thinks, stating that living in white rural America, I'm afraid to tell you they actually are. Plattner has denied his support for white supremacism and Nazi fascism by noting his past support for communism. Oh, great. So yet another Democrat who is a communist. I mean, that's what they are, man. They're the party of communism now. That's why they put their party over the whole freaking country. Plattner referred to himself as a communist in posts on Reddit. Plattner's campaign did not respond to a request for comment. Well, if he refers to himself as a proud communist, then why would the Democrats, just everyday Democrat voters, why would they even want to vote for a communist anyway? I thought they're all about our democracy and all about liberalism, as they call themselves liberals. You think they'd be all about liberty, not about freaking communism. But I guess the times are changing with the Democratic Party. Okay, let's move to the next topic from DC Drano. Dear Georgia, if there's one person that must be absolutely thrown out of office, it is Brad Raffensperger. He helped rig the 2020 election that gave away our country and 2 of your Senate seats to Democrats. Anyone who's been to Georgia knows there is no chance in hell it's a blue state. Yeah, I mean, I could echo that. I've been to Georgia a bunch of times. It looks like Rick Jackson, Georgia, is going to beat Raffensperger's ass. And it follows up with, I hope it happens. And from Interactive Polls, Georgia governor GOP primary. So this wasn't just yesterday. This post was back on February the 10th, but he just reposted it. I think he reposted it today. Rick Jackson at 24%, Burt Jones at 16%, Brad Raffensperger is at just 9%, and then the others are trailing. 42% remain undecided, and that's as of February the 8th through the 9th. It looks like 1,123. I'm assuming that's those who were surveyed, plus or minus 3.8%, the margin of error. And RNC Research Democrat Rep. Ted Lieu thinks the Save America Act, common sense voter ID laws that the overwhelming majority of Americans support, which, by the way, 71% of Democrat voters support, is extreme and stupid. Now, look, just to clarify, I'm not necessarily saying that 71% of Democrat voters support specifically the Save America Act, but they do support voter ID. So Lou says you have to prove U.S. citizenship. You know how hard that is? It might be hard for you because you're not a natural-born U.S. citizen, because you don't have a birth certificate. So I'm sure it's going to be tough for you because you don't have an American birth certificate. However, it's very easy to prove that you're a natural-born U.S. citizen because you get your birth certificate. You go to your Office of Vital Statistics, which all 50 states have, and you go and you get your birth certificate. Everybody should already have their birth certificate, man. We all got our birth certificate when we were born, for crying out loud.
The administration calls it the Save America Act, which would mandate strict voter ID requirements. That's already passed the House, and the majority leader, John Thune, says he will call it for a Senate vote next week. So what does that leave Democrats in terms of options on that?
I'm not opposed to having photo ID for elections.
Well, of course, because in the states, including the one that he represents, illegal immigrants get photo ID. Illegal immigrants have driver's licenses. So that is why. I mean, it's very clear that they're trying to get illegal immigrants to vote, in my opinion, because illegal immigrants have photo ID.
Opposed to having stupid requirements for photo ID. So under the Extreme Save Act, basically your driver's license doesn't count. You have to prove U.S. citizenship. You know how hard that is for a number of Americans?
Not. Very easy.
If you don't have a passport, pretty hard to prove that unless you can somehow find your birth certificate.
Somehow find your birth certificate. Office of Vital Statistics. It's quite simple. Everybody should know this. Okay, so what I'm going to do, we're just going to take a look and see what exactly that is required to have to get your birth certificate. So I'm just going to ask Google. So Google, how do I obtain my birth certificate? To obtain a certified copy of your birth certificate, you must contact the Vital Records Office in the state or territory where you were born. While specific processes vary by state, the general steps involve verifying your identity and paying a processing fee. As far as the processing fee, I believe what lawmakers should be doing with the Save America Act, they should add a provision in there that if you make underneath a threshold of an income, that they should waive that processing fee, specifically for the purpose of obtaining your birth certificate so you can vote. That way, people aren't going to be met with any roadblocks. You know, given the cost of living, a lot of people are scraping to get by. They may not have the $20 or $30, however much it costs to get your birth certificate. So if you make underneath a certain level of income, they should let you get your birth certificate without paying for it. Anyway, general steps to apply. Identify the correct office. Use the CDC's Vital Records Directory. So let's have a look at that. The National Center for Health Statistics, where to write for vital records. Links below are provided for those users who want direct access to individual state and territory information. To use this valuable tool, you must first determine the state or area where the birth, death, marriage, or divorce occurred, and then click on that state or area. Please follow the provided application guidelines to ensure an accurate response to your request. The federal government does not distribute certificate files or indexes with identifying information for vital records. Applications for passports can be obtained through the U.S. State Department. Okay, so let me just see. Again, this is on CDC.gov, so this is probably like the umbrella general. I'm just going to click on Florida because that's where I'm from. All right, well, it's not letting me click on it, but that's okay. We got to drop down. Well, you also can just choose from the list. Why don't we just do that? Let's see. Birth. Event birth. Cost for the copy in the state of Florida, $9. It's only $9. I mean, look, even if you make like 30 grand a year, it's $9, dude. The address is the Department of Health Bureau of Vital Statistics. That's P.O. Box. Florida birth records less than 125 years old are confidential by law. They have limited birth records dating back to 1850. All right, let's see. Additional copies are $4 each. Okay, so the fee is $9 for the first year searched and includes one certification of the record. Additional copies are $4 each when requested at the same time. If no record is found, a certified no record found statement will be issued. Let's see, a fee of $9 for the first year searched. Okay. Applicants or letters must include the signature. Okay, so this is if you're requesting it by mail, it looks like. So remittance by personal check or money order should be made payable to Bureau of Vital Statistics. Please visit our website. And I'm assuming all 50 states have a website because we do live in the 21st century now. So this is on my state website, and that is floridahealth.gov, requesting a death certificate. I want to find a birth certificate, though. Here we go. Birth certificates. Birth certificates overview. I suppose I could click on that. Eligible requesters and of legal age or 18, parents listed on the birth record, legal guardian, photo ID required. Let's see. Ordering. Here we go. Ordering a Florida birth certificate. Any person who willfully and knowingly provides any false information, yada, yada, yada. Let's see. Order online with Vital Check. And I believe Vital Check is used in almost every state. It's something like 40 or 45 states in our country uses Vital Check to obtain your birth certificate, which is a streamlined, very easy to use process, at least so I've heard. You order online with a credit card from Vital Check, and you have your certificates delivered right to your door. See, they make it extremely easy. Of course, Democrats don't want to mention Vital Check. And to be fair, I haven't heard Republicans talk about Vital Check either. Vital Records, the easy way. Order your birth, death, marriage, and divorce certificates from the comfort of your home. You can order your certificate, drop down to birth certificates, and then you just go through the process. What do you need? You need your full name, date of birth, your place of birth, your parents' names, self-identification, and proof of relationship. That's usually verified electronically, but you may need to submit a valid ID or other documents to prove your relationship if electronic verification is not possible, which I would say for the vast majority of us, it should be quite possible at this point. The payment method, credit card, and your birth certificate, and then it goes over just the information on your birth certificate, it looks like. And then the ordering process, you just fill out the application, you make your payment online, you verify your identity, which they do by electronic verification. The Government Vital Records Agency processes your request, and then the certificate delivery time varies by agency, and it's not controlled by Vital Check. And then you receive your certificate. You receive it in the mail. And just like that, you just click Start Order, and then you just go through the process. It even tells you what percentage that you're done. Looks quite easy. You just go through the step-by-step wizard, and then you'll get your birth certificate. It really isn't all that difficult. I mean, if you don't want to go through the process that I did, going through the CDC and then finding your state and all that, you could probably just simply Google what state, like how to get your birth certificate in Iowa, for example. Okay, here we go. And I'll just repost this, direct link to my profile down below, and you can just read the whole letter for yourself. And let's roll on to the next. From House Homeland GOP, we are nearly 2 weeks into the second Democrat shutdown in 6 months, and as many as 120,000 DHS employees who continue to show up every day and work to keep their fellow Americans safe are doing so without pay. This includes roughly 42,000 TSA screening officers and employees from CISA and FEMA and more. Many federal workers are still recovering from the historic 43-day shutdown last fall. Democrats need to help pass long-term funding for DHS and end this shutdown for good. And from Speaker Mike Johnson, for the third time in less than 100 days, Democrats are again putting American lives and livelihoods at risk in defense of illegal aliens. Democrats need to drop the antics and do their job. And it's the same article, just 2 separate posts. And we've got this from semaphore.com. And it says that the Federal Emergency Management Agency's Disaster Relief Fund is running low on funds amidst the government shutdown and is in danger of being completely depleted in the coming weeks without action by Congress to reopen the Department of Homeland Security, according to 2 senior Trump administration officials. The administration is set to move more money out the door to disaster-afflicted areas this week that will bring the fund at just below $5 billion, the officials said. The administration is warning that a large-scale disaster could deplete the fund down to zero without any good options to replenish the account short of Congress passing a bill funding DHS. Well, that just tells me that Democrats behind closed doors are just begging their godless entities to not send any natural disasters our way, because they are going to be in one hell of a hot seat if we do get a natural disaster in any way, shape, or form, because everybody's going to be pointing right at the Democrats, because everybody's going to be demanding they reopen DHS or start funding them again, just for the sake of FEMA. We're close to the red zone. It's getting very close, one of the officials said. A second official said the administration has generally had far more money on hand over the past year than they have now. Much of the East Coast was battered earlier this week by a serious winter storm, and the administration is still working to deliver payments for hurricane relief from past storms. The year-long DHS funding bill includes more than $26 billion for the Disaster Relief Fund, but Democrats say they won't fund the department without major changes to the Trump administration's immigration enforcement policies. The White House and Senate Democrats exchanged offers earlier this month, but negotiations are stalled. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer said on Wednesday the ball is in their court. Are we going to get paywalled? Oh, no, okay. The shutdown looks likely to stretch into next week at this point, and the administration says it cannot temporarily replenish the account by transferring funds from the Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities Fund, because that money is tied up in the courts. And it looks like that's all we got for that article. Only time will tell. The ball is not in the Republicans' court. The ball is indeed in the Democrats' court, just like the last government shutdown. They shut down the government by refusing to allow funding, and they blame the Republicans because it was the Democrats who refused funding to Homeland Security. Makes no sense whatsoever, but Democrats seldom make sense these days. From Rep. Mark Harris, today, TSA agents won't get paid. Soon, FEMA will run out of disaster relief funding. Why? Because Democrats shut down the Department of Homeland Security to try to gain political leverage. It's sick.
In the U.S. House, we passed the Homeland Security funding bill, sent it over there, and the Senate has just continued to sit on it. What they sent back was a 2-week situation that we approved again, and then they've just again allowed those 2 weeks to expire, and they've done nothing else since then. And so this is negotiation that's continuing on, but you're exactly right. It's very dangerous. Chuck Schumer's holding the American people hostage, and again, FEMA's about to run out of money, and here we are still in winter.
Yeah, they're playing games.
And still situations that are
putting
developing.
illegals above Americans.
We'll be quickly heading into spring,
That's what it's all about.
We all know what those spring storms bring and how important our first response is through FEMA in those disaster areas.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. And Democrats know above anybody else because they keep screaming climate change all the time, that as the spring season starts to come in full swing, there's going to be a lot of tornadoes, a lot of potential natural disasters that are going to be taking place. And all eyes are going to be on the Democrats if, God forbid, something happens. Next order, holy crap, TSA employees are openly lashing out at Democrats for blocking their paycheck. I would add a ... again, because if you remember back in the fall for 43 days, it was TSA who was in the spotlight for not getting paid. And it was because of the Democrats. We're suffering. We're used as pawns. And there's more quotes. So let's just play this video.
Working without pay. Now, some are looking for a second job or another way to put food on the table.
We're ready for this to be over. And
Transportation Security Officer Robert Castaneda spoke to me before starting his shift at Sky Harbor. The partial government shutdown is impacting the Department of Homeland Security, which oversees the TSA. And while members of Congress argue about a deal, officers like Castaneda aren't getting paid for the hours they've worked since the shutdown began 12 days ago.
There are many families that rely on their paycheck. Many of our officers work paycheck to paycheck.
Castaneda and the other officers are labeled essential, so they're required to report to work. But this comes on the heels of the historic government shutdown that lasted over 40 days last fall. Castaneda says people need to know that money didn't come right away.
It took 2 pay periods to get caught up, and then there were still many officers nationwide who did not receive all of their back pay up until January.
Castaneda says he's beginning to look
that's the government for you. That's the risk you take for taking a government job.
I myself have been on an interview with the city of Phoenix recently, just as a backup plan.
The current shutdown is the result over a fight over ICE, not the TSA. But both agencies are under the DHS umbrella. Senator Ruben Gallego spoke before the shutdown about how he was refusing to fund DHS following the shooting deaths of U.S. citizens in Minnesota by ICE agents. Right now, Democrats are pushing for more oversight and accountability with the agency.
A lot more American citizens were killed by illegals than the other.
At the end of the day, a murder.
Of course, they don't give a shit, though, the Democrats.
Unnecessary escalation of force.
I think many of us do want accountability for all the departments.
Look, it might have been an unnecessary escalation of force. However, Democrats need to quit rallying up their far leftist base, the outrage mob, to go out and harass and obstruct and assault federal agents. It's just that simple.
It's within DHS.
The blood is on the Democrats' hands also.
Departments are still getting paid, and those
I would argue a lot more than it would be on ICE.
Suffering and being, used as pawns in this particular endeavor.
Well, dude, look no further than the Democrats, man. They're the ones using you as pawns.
So in order for the Senate to pass this budget, they need 60 yes votes, which means that both
or they could just nuke the filibuster.
Republicans will need
that
to
could
work
happen
together in order to get that passed. We're now live at Sky Harbor. I'm Steven Sarabia with Arizona's Family.
Yeah, and it seems like they're at an impasse over this in Congress, Steven. So the next paycheck that the TSA staff get, will that have any money in it, or will it be like a goose egg?
It'll be a goose egg. That's
so
what happened during the last shutdown.
The paycheck this week will have some days where they get paid, basically the stretch of days right leading up to the shutdown, but they're not going to get paid for the days after the shutdown. So they'll have some money in this week's paycheck, but there is a big worry that if this goes on even longer, that the next paycheck.
Yeah, the next paycheck won't have any, just like what happened during the last shutdown. And any TSA agents who worked during the last shutdown, and if they didn't call in at all, they got $10,000 bonuses, which might be a lot of motivation for TSA employees to not call in. As I stated, right after the last government shutdown, that's a pretty big incentive if and when the Democrats shut down the government again, which we were talking about that back in November, that Democrats are probably going to partially shut down the government come February, just over this issue. Not only for Homeland Security funding, but also the whole Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, subsidy extensions, which it seems like Democrats really just kind of seem to have forgotten about because they have goldfish memory. Some of them still mention it here and there, but for the most part, they've just completely moved on past it. They can only focus on one thing at a time, Democrats, and then they put all of their eggs into that one single basket and they make it an everything issue. So from the Daily Signal, a total of 39 people now face charges in the anti-ICE invasion of City's Church in St. Paul last month, according to a superseding indictment that the federal district court unsealed on Friday. And we'll get to that in a second. From AG Pam Bondi, today the Justice Department unsealed an indictment charging 30 more people who took part in the attack on City's Church in Minnesota. At my direction, federal agents have already arrested 25 of them, with more to come throughout the day. You cannot attack a house of worship. If you do so, you cannot hide from us. We will find you, arrest you, and prosecute you. This Department of Justice stands for Christians and all Americans of faith. And from FBI Director Kash Patel, today, 30 more individuals have been indicted under the FACE Act in connection to the January 18th targeting of City's Church in Minnesota last month. As of this morning, the FBI executed a joint operation with our HSI HQ, Homeland Security, partners, arresting over 20 of these individuals, with additional arrests to come. This makes 39 indictments in the City's Church case total so far, including the arrest of Don Lemon and multiple alleged leaders of the riot last month. Let it be known this FBI will never tolerate anyone who targets, intimidates, or attacks Americans peacefully exercising their right to worship freely. Thank you, AG Payne Bondi and the Justice Department, for your relentless pursuit of this case. And let's get into this article. It's going to be from the Daily Signal. Dozens more arrested in city's church invasion case. And just for context, if you don't remember hearing about this, if you didn't hear about this, I did do a video, I believe it was the weekend before last, where I covered Don Lemon's perspective because he went into the church. He filmed all of it. He claims he did nothing wrong, but if you watch it for yourself, he was definitely pressing pretty aggressively at some of the churchgoers with his line of questioning. But I went over the entirety of the video from before he even went into the church until well after that they were in the church. And I played it without, I paused it to give a little commentary here and there, but I played the entire video of the whole event in the church. So if you want to have a look at that, you can check that out. It's here on this channel. It was right about 2 weeks ago, I think. So anyway, a total of 39 people now face charges in the Anti-Immigration and Customs Enforcement invasion of City's Church in St. Paul, Minnesota last month, according to a superseding indictment that the federal district court unsealed on Friday. You cannot attack a house of worship, Attorney General Pam Bondi wrote on X after the court unsealed the indictment. If you do so, you cannot hide from us. We will find you, arrest you, and prosecute you. Bondi announced that federal agents have already arrested 25 of the 30 new defendants included in the new indictment. Assistant Attorney General Harmeet Dillon, who leads the Justice Department's Civil Rights Division, wrote, I was up in the early hours of this morning to monitor the arrests in this case and keep Pam Bondi informed. Super proud of my colleagues in the criminal section of the Civil Rights Division and our local prosecutors in Minneapolis for this rapid and precise work. The indictment includes the 9 people already arrested and charged, but adds another 30 individuals who allegedly deprived congregants of their rights. 39 individuals now face charges for the invasion of City's Church. Here's the superseding indictment. I was actually looking for that earlier. So that's from Tyler O'Neill. So let me see if I can get to this so I can at least repost it if you want to have a look at this yourself. The introductory allegations. Okay, so he actually posted a whole thread, meaning that if you keep scrolling, it's going to go through all the documents post by post. So you'll have to go through it in that order. But I'm curious to see if he has the link. No, not to the story. We're actually going over that same article. But this indictment, it's going to be on a PDF on some website, assuming from the DOJ. But anyway, at the very least, you could read it here. It's going to be on Tyler O'Neill's account. So I'll repost that if you want to have a look at that. You want to take it the easy way and just click on it in the description below to my profile, or you can go to @Tyler2O'Neill. And let's get back to this. Doug Wardlow, Director of Litigation for True North Legal, the firm representing City's Church, welcomed the arrests. It shows just how serious the department is about prosecuting houses of worship, Wardlow told the Daily Signal in a phone call on Friday. It underscores just how large and disruptive the invasion of City's Church really was. His official statement, first provided to Daily Signal, noted that the indictment sends a clear message. Houses of worship are off limits for those who would use chaos and intimidation to advance a political agenda. The invasion of City's Church was a planned, coordinated effort to disrupt a worship service and interfere with religious exercise that placed congregants, including children, in fear for their lives. You know, I just can't help but wonder if Don Lemon was never there, would they have ever had the ability to indict up to 30 people, because he was filming all over the place. He was walking all around the church. He got everybody's faces on camera. Kind of hilarious. The First Amendment does not give anyone, regardless of profession, prominence, or politics, license to storm a church and intimidate, threaten, and terrorize families and children worshiping inside. According to the superseding indictment filed Thursday, agitators planned a takeover-style attack, with some agitators posing as congregants sitting down in the sanctuary to worship and others planning to enter after the commotion began. So here it is. You can download it right here. See, there's a link right there to download, and it'll just go just like that. It downloads. Good to go. And you could read it for yourself. You don't have to be online after you download it. And of course, I'm sure it'll work for your phone also. Let's see if there's anything else. I don't know if there might be anything below this. Yeah, there's a little bit. Nakima Levy-Armstrong, who has admitted her leadership role in the event, began the disruption. At her direction, quote, other co-conspirators immediately joined in by yelling and blowing whistles in a takeover attack on the church, all of which quickly caused the situation in the church to become chaotic, menacing, and traumatizing to church members. Former CNN host Don Lemon, who also faces charges in the attack, claims he was there as a journalist and not to take part in the disruption, even though he totally did. Both Lemon and Armstrong have pleaded pleaded not guilty. Agitators said they targeted the church because one of its pastors also works for Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Well, you got yourself in a lot of trouble for that bonehead idea. The church invasion. Okay, so the federal grand jury previously indicted 9 people, including Armstrong, on 2 charges: violating the Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances Act, which also protects access to churches, and violating the Ku Klux Klan Act, which criminalizes efforts to deprive Americans of their fundamental rights, in this case, the right to free exercise of religion, which is hilarious because the Ku Klux Klan was like almost exclusively created by Democrats, which is absolutely hilarious because every single person who invaded this church definitely votes blue no matter who. According to the indictment, between 20 and 40 agitators who claimed to be opposing Immigration and Customs Enforcement refused to leave when asked and shouted, "Who shut this down? We shut this down." The indictment also mentions that agitators screamed at crying children, blocked parents from getting to their children in Sunday school, and that one agitator told a child his parents were Nazis and going to hell. The new indictment includes the original charges, but brings them against 30 more defendants. It also adds some new information. For instance, the indictment states that on January 17th, the night before the church invasion, Chantel Louisa Allen and Satara Deanne Strong Allen conducted reconnaissance around the city's church in preparation for the next day's takeover operation at the church and made a video documenting their observations. These people are fucking retarded. According to the indictment, the 2 defendants noted the location of parking areas where they could pull up. And Allen noted that my thoughts are to be able to clog up this whole alleyway right here. Obstructing access is a key aspect of a FACE Act violation. Well, it sounds like they're definitely going to get convicted because they admitted to everything that would be under a FACE Act violation right on camera. Again, these people are idiots. They're absolutely idiots. So I'd be curious to know if the 9 people who have already been indicted, arrested, are they still in jail? I highly doubt that they are because they let Don Lemon out without any bail at all. The dude is rich as hell. He was indicted with the same charges, I believe, that everybody else was charged with, and they let him go with no bail at all. 0 bail. Not only that, but the judge even gave him her blessing that he could travel anywhere in the world that he damn well pleases. And he's going to be going to France come this June, which is unbelievable. All right, so I grabbed some of the info on Google again. Were the 9 people arrested for the city's church protest still in jail? And what was their bail amount? So as of February 27th, the original 9 individuals arrested in connection with the city's church protest in St. Paul have been released from jail. They have all been released, and then they've got all their names there. And so the next question I asked, were all 9 released without bail? Yes, all 9 were released without bail. So the other 30 or 20, 25, however many that they arrested today, going to assume all of them are just going to be let go with no bail at all. And let's see what else that I asked it. Did any of the defendants have any prior records? Public records and court documents do not indicate that any of the 9 original defendants had any significant prior criminal records. So you have to kind of be a little crafty with Google because obviously Google leans pretty far left. In fact, many are high-profile figures with established professional backgrounds. You see what I mean? So I followed up, if not significant prior records, have any of them previously been arrested? While most of the original 9 defendants have no major criminal convictions, several are well-known activists who have been arrested in the past for civil disobedience and protest-related activities. Well, look, dude, a crime is a crime. If you're arrested for civil disobedience 1 time, 2, 3, 4, 7, 10 different times, there has to be a point where a judge has to give you bail because you have a criminal record. I mean, as far as I understand, if you don't have a criminal record, then it's reasonable for a judge to let you go without bail because you haven't done anything wrong in the past, so they'll give you a break this time. But if you've been arrested over and over again for civil disobedience, protested-related activities, it just sounds like that the judge has kind of a left-leaning bias, just in my opinion. Were any arrested for crimes outside of protesting? Based on public court records and news reports, there is no evidence that any of the original 9 defendants had prior records for crimes unrelated to activism or professional duties. So, and then it just follows up with more information, but that's all that I asked it before I finally gave up. But anyway, we'll go ahead and move on to the next topic. Anyway, we'll see where that goes. There's no way that those 20 or 25 individuals that have been arrested today, I would totally call BS if not a single one of them had any significant record. I would say statistically, out of the 29 people that have been arrested, at least one of them has got to have some significant or some like domestic violence or something on their record, perhaps a felony or whatever. Especially the one guy, if you watch that video of Don Lemon in the church, there's one guy who is extremely outspoken, very aggressive, the guy with a beard. I won't believe unless I see it from my own eyes that dude does not have some extensive criminal record. I mean, that dude was just off his rocker. Okay, so from Tom Emmer, insane Somalis in Minnesota seem to have been overdiagnosing their children with autism so they can swindle millions from taxpayers to funnel to al-Shabaab terrorists. Sounds crazy? It is, and it's all been enabled by Tim Walz. And of course, he indicates that this is a thread, so there's more posts below. And if you've been watching The Swamp on a daily basis or even on a semi-regular basis, you're already pretty well aware of this situation with autism, and they set up these clinics. They're fake clinics where these Somali children are taken to these clinics, and the parents are paid up to $1,000 to take their kids there. And they whether if they have autism or not, I would say probably all of them do not have autism, but they diagnose them with it anyway so they can get federal funding. And then they send that federal funds to al-Shabaab. In September, a Somali woman named Asha Farhan Hassan was indicted for a scheme that swindled Minnesotans for $14 million. The linchpin of the scheme federally funded autism services for children, and that will be linked. So it goes over the details of her indictment. In 2019, Hassan formed Smart Therapy LLC and registered it as a provider in Minnesota's autism program. Hassan then recruited children from the Somali community for her new treatment center. No autism diagnosis? No problem. An easy fix for a fraudster like Hassan. For 5 years, Smart Therapy billed Minnesota taxpayers millions of dollars for services that were never actually provided. Hundreds of thousands of taxpayer dollars received by Smart Therapy were sent abroad, and the rest were used to line the pockets of Hassan and her partners to pay parents kickbacks so they'd keep bringing their children to the clinic. In the meantime, Somali children became 3 times more likely to be diagnosed with autism than other children in the state, and autism claims to Medicaid jumped from $3 million to nearly $400 million. And to put this into perspective, what is it, like 1 in 39 American children today are diagnosed with autism? So, or maybe it's 1 in 35 children. So for Somali children to be diagnosed with autism 3 times more, what would that be? Like 1 in 10 or 1 in 12 Somali children are diagnosed with autism, which that doesn't really seem to make much sense. I mean, they seem to suggest that autism seems to be related to either vaccines that we get, or maybe it could be possibly the fluoride in the water, or it could be somehow connected to the ultra-processed foods that we've been eating for, generations at this point. But Somalis don't get all of that over in Somalia. So I would go as far as to say that the autism rate over in Somalia is probably damn near nil. It's probably at 0. Shockingly, Smart Therapy is just one of over 80 autism providers currently under investigation. And this is just one thread of Tim Walz's never-ending web of fraud schemes in Minnesota. According to bombshell reporting by Christopher F. Rufo and R.K. Ryan Thorpe, multiple law enforcement sources say that untold millions have been funneled from Minnesota's Somali community to al-Shabaab terrorists. And that's going to be on cityjournal.org. One source in the City Journal's reporting even claimed the largest funder of al-Shabaab is the Minnesota taxpayer. Not only is this a grave national security concern, it's a slap in the face to hardworking, law-abiding Minnesotans. The incompetence and inaction of Tim Walz enable and empower rampant fraud. Under his failed leadership, over $1 billion is estimated to have been stolen from Minnesota taxpayers, some of which may have ended up in the hands of terrorists. Accountability is coming. I assume he means the $1 billion is stolen from Minnesota taxpayers by way of autism misdiagnoses or a fake diagnosis for autism, because in total, the number that keeps coming up is $18 billion. And I believe $9 billion has been 100% ironclad confirmed. And that's with regard to everything that they're discovering, including the daycare centers, the transportation companies that they claim exist when they don't actually exist. If you watch Nick Shirley's videos, he goes over that. And by the way, Tom Emmer, he is a GOP, or he's a rep, and also a GOP rep in Minnesota. He represents Minnesota's 6th district. So this affects him personally because he's from Minnesota. He represents Minnesota. And he also happens to be the GOP majority whip in the House. So It is wild. And we got another one ripe for fraud. The number of autism centers in Minnesota has exploded, and the price tag for taxpayers along with it. Now that this funding requires licensing, only 6 of the 500 autism centers have applied for it. Something tells me it's because 494 of them never qualified for it in the first place. Another reason why the president's war on fraud is absolutely necessary. And we've got Minnesota Autism Program repayments from the service year starting in 2017, $1 billion, or is that no, it's $1 million with an M, not a B. In 2018, it went up like 6x. And then 2019, 20 million, 38, 82. By 2022, it went from 82 to 124 million, then 189. And then it just keeps doubling, like from 189 to 343 million by 2024. And for 2025, I don't know if we have the numbers, at least on this image, we don't have that number. It wouldn't surprise me if it went over 500 million though, maybe even approaching 600 million. And it was just never going to stop. If they didn't discover this, or even if Nick Shirley never put out that video that got 130 million views in 48 hours, showcasing the fraud happening in Minnesota, I don't think anything would have been done about it. I think they would have just allowed it to continue. Because there's no doubt in my mind that the Democrats in Minnesota 100% knew what was happening. Because $9 billion doesn't just vanish like a fart in the wind. They had to have known what was going on. I mean, that's not a small amount of money, especially in a state like Minnesota, where it's not even, I don't think it's even that close to one of the most populated states in the country. All right, from Caroline Levitt, Democrats should be ashamed of their immigration policies. And let's see what she's talking about. Oh yeah, that's right. Isn't the Washington Examiner? Oh, no, never mind. I was wondering if they paywalled or not. It wasn't just a made-for-TV moment. It was engineered to go viral on social media. Congressional Democrats insolently sitting on their hands after President Donald Trump asked those who believe that the first lady of the American government is to protect Americans, or the first duty. Why did I say first lady? I don't know, first duty. The first duty of American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal immigrants, to stand up. When Democrats didn't, Trump admonished them. You should be ashamed of yourselves. One can argue that it wasn't fair for Trump to use Democrats as political props during his State of the Union address, but politics isn't fair. As Governor Abigail Spanberger's response showed minutes later, it was also a fair assessment of the Democratic Party's continued inability even to pay lip service to what is needed to secure our borders and protect our sovereignty. Oh yeah, there's the paywall. I thought Washington Examiner did. Spanberger attacked Trump for sending poorly trained federal agents into our cities where they have arrested and detained American citizens and people who aspire to be Americans. One can criticize the daily arrest and deportation quotas that the White House has pressed the Department of Homeland Security to meet, causing some citizens to be detained and subsequently released. But who are these people who aspire to be Americans that Spanberger is referring to? Is this the new Democratic Party euphemism for more than 6 million illegal immigrants former President Joe Biden let into our country? And then it just trails off from there. If you're a member of the Washington Examiner, I'll have that link for you. And from Theo World, once in a while, the GOP should be reminded that there's simply no compromising with Democrats on immigration. Our ultimate goal is to get a path to citizenship for all 11 million, or however many undocumented there are here. And that's from Chuck Schumer. So realistically, 30 million, 45 million, 100 million, whatever the number is, we just want to give them blanket citizenship. If Democrats, if they end up nuking the filibuster, if they end up retaking the House and the Senate, and in 2029, if they retake the White House, there is no doubt in my mind in any way at all that they would do exactly that. They would just overnight just blanket citizenship to every single immigrant that's in the United States. I think they would do that completely overnight because the 2030 census is coming up. So not only is that happening, which would allow them to get a lot more congressional seats. You see how this just kind of rolls up to the point where they would just seize power that way. I think the only way that you could pretty much stop them at that point is if you get a hell of a lot more Americans voting, which that could be the catalyst to get a lot of people voting, especially when they pack the Supreme Court, which they plan on doing, and a whole bunch of other nightmare stuff.
The only way we're going to have a great future in America is if we welcome and embrace immigrants, the dreamers, and all of them, because our ultimate goal...
What do you mean by... Oh, shit. Sorry, I didn't mean to click on that. But what does he mean by all of them? Well, we have to include the dreamers, which, like Democrats, they had the House and the Senate during the Obama era. Why didn't they just give them citizenship back then? Maybe it was the 60 vote Senate filibuster. Maybe that's what stopped it. But if you notice, he's like, the Dreamers and all of them. Who is all of them, Chuck Schumer? Of course he means illegal immigrants.
All of them, because our ultimate goal is to help the Dreamers, but get a path to citizenship for all 11 million or however many undocumented
Oh, well, there you go.
are here.
So he did say that. He's like, yeah, we're going to give every single illegal immigrant citizenship, just blanket citizenship for all of them, no matter what. Yep, because that's just their agenda, even though they didn't come in the legitimate way. And plus, I think Democrats, they just want to create a serf class. That's really what they want. They just want low wage, low skill, never going to have any opportunity to realistically ascend up the ladder. So they don't care. They just want obedient, useful idiot pawns that they could just use as just human bodies to allow them to have more congressional seats. Because do you think that most of these illegal immigrants, if they were given citizenship overnight, you really think that they're going to be voting? Of course, they're going to be blanketing. At least if the SAVE Act doesn't get passed, they're just going to blanket ballot the entire state because they've already set the precedent thanks to COVID. And like what Trump said, we're going to stop mail-in voting unless you have an illness. I don't even think you should even give them that because the majority of the country already has an illness in some way, shape, or form. Most people, I believe, have some chronic ailment, and that's exactly what Democrats are going to point to, even though you're perfectly able-bodied to go and vote in person. You know, like, well, I've got financial PTSD, so I can't go vote in person, so it's got to be mail-in for me too. Like that kind of bullshit. All right, Amy Klobuchar, after working a night shift in the pediatric ICU, Tayana Gibson Brown was jolted awake when federal agents used a battering ram to break into her home and detain her husband without a judicial warrant. Another example of ICE violating the rights of Minnesotans. Realistically, and I haven't looked it up yet, but I guarantee what it was, she married an illegal immigrant, and this illegal immigrant had a final order of removal, probably signed by a judge years ago, because whenever you're issued a final order of removal, guess who it's signed by? A judge. It's signed by a judge. So let's hear this out.
So Ms. Gibson Brown, you had just come back from your night shift as a nurse, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And that's why you're wearing the scrubs in the video?
I had fell asleep with my scrubs on, yeah.
They prey on your emotions. That's what Democrats do. They have to appeal to everybody's emotions. Notice the septum piercing. So I'm not going to exactly believe everything she says because she's obedient to the leftist cult.
And you work in intensive care unit, is that right?
A pediatric intensive care, yes.
And how long have you been doing that?
21 years.
So there you are, you're home, and then suddenly your husband wakes you up and tells you that this has happened. Could you talk about
I bet you want to bet there's not a single Republican in the room.
I just didn't
Maybe
understand because he had just checked in. And then he had another check-in for the 26th, and it was my son's birthday that day, so I was just in shock.
And is it true then that Judge Bryant, who used to, for my colleagues should know this, he was a assistant U.S. attorney, worked as a prosecutor, and then in the last few years, this went through a confirmation hearing and became a federal judge. He's the judge that then issued an order that this was illegal, what happened to you. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'll look this up. I haven't looked this up at all. I have no idea who this is. Let me just take a look and see. But I assume that she married an illegal immigrant and he had a final order of removal, and that's why they kicked in the door, because they had a final order of removal and they were executing that order for removal. All right, so here we go. Why did federal agents detain Tayana Gibson Brown's husband? Federal agents detained Tayana Gibson Brown's husband, Garrison Gibson, a Liberian immigrant, on January 11th of 2026 in Minneapolis as part of an immigration enforcement action. He had a standing deportation order stemmed from prior criminal convictions, including a 2008 drug-related offense, though some aspects were later dismissed, and he was under an order of supervision but still subject to removal. The raid was controversial because agents used a battering ram to forcibly enter the home without a judicial warrant. Uh-oh. Well, did they have a final order of removal? Maybe not. Only administrative one from ICE, which a federal judge later ruled violated Fourth Amendment rights, ordering his release after a few days. He was briefly re-detained by mistake shortly after, but released again. The incident drew criticism over ICE tactics during broader 2026 enforcement operations. Okay, well, maybe ICE will have to own that one if they didn't have a legitimate warrant. However, so they did have an administrative one, which I believe, isn't that lawful though? I'm pretty sure that's lawful. And then a left-leaning judge in Minnesota, of course, they don't want to recognize the administrative warrants because the Democratic Party doesn't want to recognize them. So they just ruled it unconstitutional. They just let them go. So I don't know if ICE or if Homeland Security, if they're appealing that decision. Maybe they are, not sure.
Authorities say the suspect's name is Hector Gamaliel Arguetaguera, not Juan Carlos, the name he gave when he was first arrested. And tonight, investigators are reassessing just who they have in custody.
He's clearly a much more dangerous individual than what we originally thought.
Tonight, authorities are uncovering troubling new details about the suspect in the Chalk family's disappearance. Mobile County Sheriff Paul Birch says they recently learned the man's real name is Hector Gamaliel Arguetaguera. He was arrested more than a week after Aurelia Chalk-Cack and her two children, Nairika Zuleta Chalk and Anthony Garcia, were last seen near their home in Theodore. He was charged with 3 counts of kidnapping. After weeks of intense search efforts, authorities held a press conference Tuesday afternoon, laying out what they say is Arguetaguera's violent criminal background in El Salvador. Newly uncovered court documents show he was the suspect of an aggravated homicide in 2015. That same year, U.S. records show he was detained in Texas for being in the country illegally, but released about a month later. Documents also show Arguetaguera has active warrants in El Salvador for terrorism and organized crime from 2016, 2018, and 2024. PJ Lavoie with the Department of Homeland Security says he also has gang ties.
He is a documented member of the Sureños, transnational criminal organization in El Salvador.
The Sureños, also known as Sur 13, is a violent street gang with roots in Central America. Lavoie says a temporary protected status order blocked Arguetaguera's removal from the U.S.
Yikes, man. Just another one that the Biden administration let in, the temporary protected status. And then he goes on to probably murder this entire family, and they're still trying to find them. And of course, he's not going to give up any information. Just absolutely insane. And they've got another post. Breaking 2 illegal aliens released into the U.S. under the Biden administration just arrested for kidnapping a woman and her 2 children in Mobile, Alabama on January 30th. ICE is working to deport these illegal aliens, and Democrat Party is working to abolish ICE. Yeah, that's exactly what they're doing.
But he's an illegal from Guatemala. He was found to be in possession of a handgun, so he's charged with certain persons forbidden to possess a pistol, and also has a hold with ICE. Yesterday, we arrested Juan Guerrera, who we can place at the scene through investigative techniques, and he's the one who fled from a vehicle in Baldwin County, and he is now in custody, charged with 3 counts of kidnapping first degree. You know, not going to get into details on how we were able to track these different individuals, but just simply that it's investigative techniques. But I also want to really emphasize how this case has progressed with the partnerships with our federal partners, the FBI, Homeland Security investigation, who couldn't be here this morning, Customs and Border Patrol, ALEA, and we were in direct, constant contact with the district attorney. And so that's where we are right now. We've executed several other search warrants. They're doing another one as we speak. We do know that there was a black van that was involved at that residence on several occasions. The morning they went missing, that's a photograph of the black van that's up there. That is being searched as we speak as well.
Yeah, it's just a horrible, most likely going to be a horrible tragedy if once it gets to the conclusion that they end up finding. Okay. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, we had 2 young females. One was ARD and another one was assaulted by an individual from Mexico who has been deported once for drug trafficking. Claremont Sheriff Chris Stratton understands the importance of removing criminal aliens from Ohio neighborhoods to keep Americans safe. Partner with ICE and help us defend the homeland.
We have 2 seen violent acts from some of our illegals. We had 2 young females. One was raped, another was sexually assaulted by an individual from Mexico who had been deported once for drug trafficking out of Georgia. So we are experiencing it in our county. In our township where we reside, we had just this past week 3 indicted. They were from Colombia. One is here on a work visa, which is ridiculous. We have one has been deported once and is in the county illegally. Partnering with ICE, we've discovered they were in jail for the same and similar acts in Wisconsin. We're getting ready to partner with the United States Marshals. I'll house federal inmates in my jail here soon. So the partnership's been outstanding for our county.
And by the way, that looks like they're in the state of Ohio. I noticed OH-02, maybe District 2. And that's good, man. They need to partner with ICE. Every state needs to. We need to get them all out of here. That's the majority of Americans feel the same way. Homeland Security, this individual was arrested by local police. This individual accepted a courtesy ride from Border Patrol to this location, a ride that did not have to be provided. Would the Washington Post have rather us force him to find transportation from the station after his arrest by local police? This individual tragically died almost a week after this courtesy ride. It is ridiculous to blame Border Patrol for an individual's death a week after their last interaction with them. So, and this is the post in question, the article that was published by the Washington Post. Nurul Amin Shah Alam, a 56-year-old, partially blind Rohingya refugee who spoke little English, was found dead Tuesday in Buffalo, about 5 miles from where Border Patrol agents had dropped him off after they picked him up from county jail. And let's get into a little bit of this, even though I have a feeling, I was going to say, I'm pretty sure that they pay well, the Washington Post, so I guess we're not going to get into it, at least not through them. But anyway, they said he was found dead 5 days later. Of course, it's all about the framing. Border Patrol agents left a partially blind refugee in a parking lot. He was found dead 5 days later, which kind of leads you to assume that they left him in a parking lot, he died, and then somebody just found his body 5 days after he died, which is not the case at all, at least according to Homeland Security, that however he died, I don't know if he died from exposure or hypothermia or what. This happened in Buffalo, New York, so, I mean, I can only assume that to be the case. But anyway, I do have a follow-up to this from Hakeem Jeffries, Timu Obama. The DHS agents who callously abandoned Nurul Amin Shah Alam must be investigated for criminally negligent homicide at a minimum. Every single person responsible for this tragic and preventable death will be held accountable. And remember, if Democrats win the House, they want Hakeem Jeffries to be the Speaker of the House. This lunatic. They want him to be the Speaker of the House. Even though that these agents dropped him off at a parking lot. I have no idea why they dropped him off at a parking lot. Not sure why they picked him up anyway, other than what the Department of Homeland Security had already stated in their response. But regardless, Hakeem Jeffries doesn't want to hear any of this. He doesn't give a shit. He just wants anybody who had any interaction with him to be arrested for murder. That's what he wants. That's the state of the lunacy in the Democratic Party today. And these lunatics are this close. They're like an inch away from seizing power and hanging on to power for at least a couple of years. And it's just mind-boggling. All right, so Florida's Voice, radical left woke AI. President Trump orders immediate halt to Anthropic AI use across all federal agencies. He blasts the company for trying to strong-arm the Department of War. And I already have Trump's True Social post here, so I'm trying to decide which I should go with first. I'll just read his post first from Donald J. Trump's True Social account. The United States of America will never allow a radical left woke company to dictate how our great military fights and wins wars. That decision belongs to your commander-in-chief and the tremendous leaders I appoint to run our military. The left-wing nut jobs at Anthropic have made a disastrous mistake trying to strong-arm the Department of War and force them to obey their terms of service instead of our Constitution. Their selfishness is putting American lives at risk, our troops in danger, and our national security in jeopardy. Therefore, I am directing every federal agency in the United States government to immediately cease all use of Anthropic's technology. We don't need it, we don't want it, and we will not do business with them again. There will be a 6-month phase-out period for agencies like the Department of War who are using Anthropic's products at various levels. Anthropic better get their act together and be helpful during this phase-out period, or I will use the full power of the presidency to make them comply with major civil and criminal consequences to follow. We will decide the fate of our country, not some out-of-control radical left AI company run by people who have no idea what the real world is all about. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Make America great again. And that just goes to show, look, if Democrats get back into power, if they take over Congress and the Oval Office in the future, are they just going to re-implement Anthropic with whatever agenda that they have? Probably. Would not be surprising. President Donald Trump on Friday directed all U.S. government agencies to immediately cease using technology from artificial intelligence firm Anthropic, blasting the company as a radical left woke entity attempting to undermine American military sovereignty and national security, which, of course, we already read through the True Social post. So let's see. The president's directive mandates an immediate stop to Anthropic's use across federal agencies, the 6-month phase. The announcement drew swift attention as supporters praised it as a bold stand against Silicon Valley overreach and ideological bias in critical defense tools. The move follows reported tensions between Anthropic and the Pentagon, where the company reportedly resisted demands for unrestricted military access to its AI models amid concerns over potential uses in autonomous weapons or surveillance. This decision highlights ongoing conservative priorities to protect U.S. sovereignty in emerging technologies and prevent left-leaning tech firms from influencing how America defends itself. That's some scary stuff, man. Pretty scary. That's why I don't trust AI, as far as I can friggin' throw it. From Rawls Alerts, breaking, the United States has issued a forceful warning telling Americans to leave Iran immediately and has designated Iran as a state sponsor of wrongful detention. So if you're in Iran, I don't know why you'd be an American in Iran right now, but if you are, they're telling you to leave. Tom Cotton, for 47 years, Iran has believed they can't win a war, but can win any negotiation. Under President Trump's leadership, they are likely to lose both.
Well, you shouldn't, Sean. I don't either. I don't know who was calling significant progress from that meeting this morning. It sounds like it may have been the Iranians. Remember, they believed for 47 years that they can't win a war, but they can win any negotiation. I think with Donald Trump, they're likely to lose both. As you said, they're refusing to stop enriching uranium. That was a central demand of the president going back 10 years. And as Marco Rubio
thanks to the likes of
very
Stuxnet,
critically pointed out, this is not just about
virus.
their nuclear program. They have thousands of ballistic missiles that threaten our bases in the Middle East, in Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean. Some of them can even range our bases in Europe. And they want to build missiles, as the president and Marco have said, to reach the United States. They have a space launch program, Sean. When was the last time you heard of Iran putting an astronaut into space? The reason they have that space launch program is it's the exact same technology that would be used to build intercontinental missiles to hit us here in the United States. We cannot allow Iran to continue to build this massive missile arsenal to threaten our people, our homeland, our troops, and our friends.
Yeah, which also provides the argument for the Golden Dome. So I should get the Golden Dome up and running. House Foreign Affairs Committee Majority Rep. Brian Mast, Iran would attack America any chance they get. Trump is defending us. Our demands to Tehran are simple and straightforward. The full dismantlement of its nuclear program. Iran has caused enormous harm to its own people, its economy, and the entire world. It cannot be trusted with nuclear capabilities. Well, obviously, the federal government has found out, at least in my opinion, that they've got other nuclear facilities that we haven't taken out. We took out their primary one for sure, It sounds to me like they've got other nuclear facilities that they're ramping up nuclear production at.
Thank you so much for being with us, Congressman. Appreciate it. So there's said to be progress in these talks. This is what Abbas Araghchi, the foreign minister of Iran, said about the latest round. He said, this round of talks was the most intense so far. It concluded with the mutual understanding that we will continue to engage in a more detailed manner on matters that are essential to any deal, including sanctions termination and nuclear-related steps. Technical teams will convene in Vienna in coming days. But in typical fashion, these talks seem to be dragging on. I mean, this is what Iran historically has done. We've seen this movie before, and I get a sense that President Trump doesn't want to watch it again.
I think you get that sense correctly. That's why you see those talks actually being quite short. They're talking for 2 or 3 hours at a time. They're not talking for 2 or 3 weeks nonstop, 12 hours a day, something like that, because the U.S. demands are quite simple and straightforward. Full dismantlement of their nuclear program, a very close to serious end of their ballistic missile program, which is substantial, and an end to their support for all of those proxies. And to say just how seriously everybody is taking this, not only it was mentioned that Ambassador Huckabee told our non-essential personnel in Israel to leave. China ordered their people in Iran to leave and their Iranian embassy there to leave. Poland, UK, India, all those countries and others telling their people to leave the region, their non-essential personnel to leave the region. Everybody's taking this very seriously.
Holy cow,
General
man.
Jack Keane earlier today on Fox
we mean
and Friends
business.
said if you're going to launch a strike against Iran, there's no better time than the present. Listen to what he said.
Iran is vulnerable and weak, weaker than they've ever been in the 46-year history of the regime. Right now, today, that gives us up an opportunity to put in place a comprehensive joint operation with Israel to really set the conditions for a regime change. To do nothing is to continue this. Makes no sense.
The general says you can't just put all that force.
I think American people are kind of sick of this regime change
talk.
talk.
The time is ripe for regime change, particularly if you work with Israel on it. What are your thoughts?
I consider it inevitable, one, because of their actions against their own people, also because of their basically worthless currency that they have, but in addition, their interaction with the United States of America, their continued attacks against us. Tower 22 in Jordan killed 3 American service members, always attacking our merchant marine fleets, our U.S. Navy vessels, you name it. We want a diplomatic solution. President Trump wants diplomacy, number one. I don't see them taking that off-ramp. It seldom yields results. They don't respond to strongly worded letters or tough
that plane is
conversations.
wild, man.
They do respond because they don't have a choice to military action like what you're showing, B-2 bombers dropping earth-penetrating ordnance against their Iranian nuclear infrastructure. They don't have a choice but to respond to that, and they will respond one way or another. Either they're going to bring an end to these programs diplomatically, or it comes to an end by direct action, and the president has been clear.
Okay, man. Well, it sounds like that they're getting a lot of other countries involved, having them kick out Iranian diplomats in different embassies around the world. That's wild. Okay, U.S. Attorney Pirro, we will aggressively enforce U.S. sanctions against Iran and relentlessly pursue ghost fleet vessels whose illicit oil shipments have served as revenue sources for the IRGC and its terrorist proxies. With the continued seizures and forfeitures of tankers and related profits, we are sending a clear message that there will be no safe harbor for sanctions evasion, and that we will deny Iran the ability to fund terrorism through its shadowy maritime networks. And we've got a follow-up. U.S. Attorney D.C., the United States is seeking the forfeiture of the oil tanker named Skipper and 1.8 million barrels of sanctioned crude oil that supported Iran and Venezuela. The forfeiture complaint alleges a scheme between at least 2021 and the present to facilitate the shipment and sale of petroleum products for the benefit of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. During this time, the Skipper moved crude oil from Iran and Venezuela and through ship-to-ship transfers delivered it to various locations around the world, including to other rogue regimes. And you could read more at justice.gov. Let me just take a look at the headline. That's what it looks like. United States seeks forfeiture of oil tanker and 1.8 million barrels of crude oil that supported Iran and Venezuela. It's going to be at justice.gov. And it looks like we got a video here. Must be the Skipper. Probably going to be no sound. Yeah, there's no sound. There's never sound. Now for these unclassified videos that I'm assuming are released by the Pentagon, Department of War. And they're seizing it. I think I've already seen this before. I don't think this is new. I think this was shared with the public at least a month or two ago. Because, yeah, I think they took this, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think they may have taken this vessel before Maduro was caught. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I've been wrong before. Okay. And let's head on back to the next one from Eric Daugherty. Breaking: President Trump sounds the alarm that SCOTUS's decision might force the taxpayer to pay hundreds of billions of dollars to companies and countries. Says the case could be re-adjudicated. This is betrayal. I'm sure the Supreme... Okay, so here, let's just read it here. The recent decision of the United States Supreme Court concerning tariffs could allow for hundreds of billions of dollars to be returned to countries and companies that have been ripping off the United States of America for many years to come, and now, according to this decision, could actually continue to do so at an even increased level. I'm sure that the Supreme Court did not have this in mind. It doesn't make sense that countries and companies that took advantage of us for decades, receiving billions and billions of dollars that they should not have been allowed to receive, would now be entitled to an undeserved windfall, the likes of which the world has never seen before. As a result of this highly disappointing, to say the least, ruling, is a rehearsing or re-adjudication of this case possible? President Donald J. Trump. I don't know, man. It sounds like he's starting to show his cards. He's not keeping those cards too close to his chest, because that sounds like a bit of a vulnerable post that perhaps the workaround, the tariffs that he was talking about using, that Brett Kavanaugh had pointed out in his dissent, that he could use other tariffs that have been approved by Congress to essentially just implement the same tariffs that he did under the IEEPA tariffs that the Supreme Court struck down. But it sounds like maybe the lawyers that are going over this workaround, they may not be all that confident, perhaps. I don't know. He doesn't hint to that directly, but that's kind of what I'm getting out of that. And from the Vice President, VP Vance in Wisconsin. And he's got a quote, so let's hear what he says in Wisconsin.
It's so great to be back in Wisconsin. I'm so grateful to be back in this great state with all of its amazing people. You all know this, Wisconsin is a state with a proud tradition of building great American products with Wisconsin hands, and that's what we're here to celebrate today in this great facility. The government exists to serve you. We want the government, of course, to be smaller. We want it to be limited in its scope. We don't want it in your pocketbooks. We don't want it telling you what to do. The idea that every single one of you should have a good job, a good life if you work hard and play by the rules. The idea that our young families should be able to own a stake in their country, that's what fires us up. That's what we're fighting for. And what about the dreams of you and your children? Because that's who I'm fighting for. That's who Donald Trump is fighting for. I'm asking you to remember who serves you. And what I know about Donald Trump and the congressional Republicans is that we wake up every single day and we think about, how do we fight for you?
Always fighting for you, for the American citizen, not for the illegal immigrants, which is what the Democrats like to argue in favor for. Okay, Ambassador Warren Stevens. Vandalizing the statue of Winston Churchill is a disgrace. He was one of Britain's greatest leaders who stood firm against tyranny so that fundamental freedoms such as the right to protest endure today. We should not dishonor the memory of those who protected our liberty. So I decided to ask Grok, how many historic American statues were damaged or removed by the left from 2021 through 2024? And let's have a look. According to the SPLC tracking, a key source monitoring these changes, 136 Confederate memorials and symbols were removed or renamed between 2021 and 2024, 73 in 2021 and 63 for the following years. Dozens more non-Confederate historic statues, such as Columbus and Roosevelt and some Union figures, faced vandalism or official removal amid protests. No single neutral database tallies every damage incident across all historic American statues, as definitions vary, and many were local/government actions post-2020 unrest, rather than pure vigilante acts. So, they're complaining about Winston Churchill's statue getting vandalized. However, we've got, here in the United States, we've got dozens and hundreds, like well over 100 statues, whether they're Confederates or not. They're still historical monuments, and they should be preserved because, if you erase history, you're bound to repeat it. Isn't that kind of how the saying goes? Okay. Anyway, here we go. Dr. Roger Marshall, another Maha win. Leading report breaking: Target will now require every cereal it sells to be made without synthetic food dyes by the end of May, per Axios. And let's see if they got, okay, they don't have the article. All right, well, leading report, what else are we going to learn from it? They gave us the timeline by the end of May of this year. So if you shop Target, I have no idea why you would want to shop Target, but those who are going to shop Target, if you buy your cereal from there, no more artificial food dyes or synthetic food dyes. Same thing, right? I mean, I think it's the same thing. And Secretary Linda McMahon, Utah Governor Cox, and state lawmakers have an ambitious goal for 80% of third grade students reading proficiently by 2030. I strongly support SB 241 to improve early literacy for thousands of Utah students. Great states like Utah are making reading great again. I can't believe we're here at this point where less than 80% of our students are not even proficient for third grade standards. It's crazy, man. Anyway, let's see what this is. Chairman of the Utah County Democrat Party and ran for the state legislature as a Democrat. Then he decided he wanted to win and changed parties to run as a Republican. Signature gathering. SB 54 allows closeted liberals like Curtis Spencer Cox and others to buy their way onto Republican primary ballots. So, yeah, I don't even know if that's even true or not. I mean, it's just a post by somebody here on X. I don't even know. I mean, you have to take everything with a grain of salt, especially in the comment section. Okay. Steve Daines, thanks to the president, made in Montana, mining is back. Let's have a look.
Hey, Taylor, and we pulled this ore from the mine when we went down into it. We're standing in front of the facility here that processes the ore and turns it into palladium. What you're seeing here is basically an unusable
high-value metal
of the smelting process. They call that slag, and as you can see, that's just under 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit. This entire operation was almost upended just a few years ago when the Trump administration says Russia started illegally dumping palladium onto the market. You might not know what palladium's used for. It's primarily in catalytic converters in every single car and truck. And it is mined right here in Montana, as well as South Africa, and importantly for this story, in Russia. We joined the miners 2,500 feet below the Earth's surface to see the operation firsthand. The company that runs this mine is called Subpoenaed Stillwater. They lost more than $400 million when Russia started dumping cheaper palladium onto the market a few years ago. Had to lay off about 40% of their workers, 640 people, because the price of palladium fell by about half, and it was just not sustainable to run a business that way.
Man, I wish I knew that. I would have bought some.
The company is fighting back. It won a case against Russia.
You can buy palladium on the metal market.
Just implemented a preliminary tariff of around 133% on palladium from Russia. Russia's imports to the U.S. have effectively stopped because of that, and now the price of the precious metal has since recovered to levels that are sustainable for the company. Senator Steve Daines is here on the ground at this facility where they process the palladium, and he says that this is all a result of the Trump administration stepping in and stopping Russia from dumping palladium onto the market.
We were pursuing this case with the Biden
probably jumped it because Biden was in charge.
They were stalling it. And once the election happened, President Trump becomes our president, and then he puts people in place like Doug Burgum, Chris Wright, Howard Lutnick, folks who were going to be on the side of American jobs and American mining. It absolutely is night and day.
Yeah, I can imagine. Going from Biden to Trump, it is night and day. Oh, crap, man. I forgot. My mic was muted. Sorry. Palladium spot price, $1,816 USD. I believe that's per ounce. And as you can see, that's like where it appears that Russia started dumping the palladium onto the market illegally, even though it's a sovereign nation. So I don't know what they mean by dumping it illegally. If they want to sell it, well, what's to stop them from selling it? But, I'm no expert with like geopolitical affairs or anything like that. But anyway, like when I first went to this, I started with a 5-year and just showing that it did go down. It's starting to recover, although it did drop back off again. Maybe not that soon. Yeah, so it dropped off again, like back in late January, going from over $2,000 down to $1,600. So that was a quick drop. I think that is consistent with the sharp drop in silver, because silver did the same thing. Yeah, see, there you go. It dropped it like exactly when silver did. Probably the same with gold. Didn't they all do the same? Yeah, roughly like the same. Same with platinum. Yeah, I mean, gold is at $94.52. It had a big run recently, going up over almost 115. Did it go over 115? No, it looks almost. $114.98 was where it looks like it topped out at. Crazy. And then it's starting to swing back up again. It's crossed back over $90 again. And, just to put it into some historical context, I mean, look at this. Like back in 2023, it was only $23. And even going further back beyond that, it was like less than $15, I think, before COVID started or before COVID happened. Yeah, so like 24. Oh, maybe not. Maybe. Oh, yeah, here we go. Yeah. $14, $15, $14.62. I mean, if you go back far enough, I mean, hell, it was like $4 back in the early 2000s. If only we knew then what we know now. Okay, let's head to Rapid Response 47 from Secretary Wright. Biden did everything he could to push electricity prices up, closing 40 gigawatts of coal power. President Trump, on the other hand, kept 17 gigawatts of coal power plants open last year that would have been closed under the Democrats.
Yeah, look, Biden did everything he could to push electricity prices up, closing 40 gigawatts of coal power. President Trump, on the other hand, kept 17 gigawatts of coal power plants open last year that would have been closed under the Democrats. So, yes, there was inertia for those rising electricity prices, but that inertia is over. Indiana just announced a lowering of electricity rates. Georgia and Alabama announced a 3-year freeze.
You won't hear that with a Democrat-led administration.
Electricity production up, new jobs coming here, and ending these ruinous President Biden electricity price rises. But yeah, when you start in a deep hole, you got to dig awful hard. You got to fill it awful hard to get positive. But I think we're on a tremendous trajectory.
And of course, Democrats keep gaslighting, saying that Republicans in the Trump administration are increasing the cost of electricity because they're rolling back the Biden-era subsidies for renewable energy, and they're closing wind turbine facilities and or wind farms and all that nonsense. But go back in history and find out, is there a single year where the Democrats were in charge of everything and the cost of electricity ever went down? Like, when was a period of time when Democrats were in charge when anything went down? Probably nothing. Or no period in probably at least recent history. And by recent, probably like the last 100 years, maybe. Rapid Response 47, U.S. oil production is at a record high. U.S. natural gas production is at a record high. American energy dominance. So the USA now produces more oil than Saudi Arabia and Russia combined. And also the USA now produces as much natural gas as Russia, Iran, and China combined. So we are drill, baby, drill. We are extracting tons of oil. Plus, we're bringing Venezuela into the market again, which they've been largely cut off from the world for, like 20 years, I think, 15, 20 years. And now that they're coming back online, which Venezuela has the largest oil reserves on the planet. So once that starts rolling into the global markets, I think we're going to probably be seeing the price of gas going down substantially, at least hopefully. Of course, not everybody wants that to happen, but certainly everyday Americans do. I mean, we would love nothing more than that. And let's rock and roll to the next. Breaking 911, an Easton Police Department officer and 2 Good Samaritans rescued a driver from a burning vehicle early Friday morning. I know it's not swamp related, but it's Friday, so sometimes I search a little bit outside of the scope of the federal government, and I come across a couple things here and there, so let's give this a look.
Is anybody in the car? Hey, back up, back up.
What is it? Just the truck bed that's on fire?
Hey, sir. He's away, sir. Hey, can we get you out, sir? Hey, sir, look at me. Put the phone down. Hold that. Let's go. Hey. Come on.
En route to that general area.
Is he the only one? Hey, back up. Back up. That gentleman's out of the car. Nice shot, man.
Damn, dude, that was intense. It's like straight out of a movie. Easton Police Department. Way to go. Okay, Watchdog Guru, Justin, Elon Musk's SpaceX plans to file for IPO as soon as next month at a $1.75 trillion valuation, Bloomberg reports. Holy cow. I think that I knew that SpaceX had been private and they hadn't gone public. I just didn't realize that they had still been private and they haven't gone public yet. I don't see anything article related, although I'm sure that'd be very easy to find if you just Google SpaceX IPO. If you want more info on that, just showing that that's happening or about to happen. From Bethany Stevens at NASA, it's been another pivotal week at NASA. Updates to the NASA Artemis program has been announced. It sounds like they're going to be pushing back the launch date because they took the launch vehicle off of the launch pad and they rolled it back into the assembly building, which sucks. Artemis 2 undergoes hardware fixes. ISS research returns to Earth and next-gen wing design tested in flight. America's leadership in space and aviation will continue.
Across the nation, NASA teams are strengthening America's leadership in space and aviation. Here's what's new this week in your NASA Minute. On Friday morning, NASA Administrator Jared Isaacman announced important updates to the Artemis program.
We are going to add missions. In fact, we're essentially going to pull in Artemis 3 to launch in 2027 with a revised mission profile.
Fantastic.
So instead of going directly to a lunar landing, we will endeavor to rendezvous in low Earth orbit with one or both of our lunar landers. This is how NASA changed the world, and this is how NASA is going to do it again.
All right,
on Wednesday,
man.
Teams at the Kennedy Space Center rolled
Previously,
the
they
Space
planned to
Launch
land in
System
2028.
rocket and Orion spacecraft
So that's good
for
news.
Artemis 2 back
The
into
sooner
the
the better.
vehicle assembly building.
Assuming all
Over
goes
the
well.
weekend, engineers identified an issue with the flow of helium into the rocket's upper stage and returned the vehicle to the VAB to diagnose and resolve it in a controlled environment.
Yeah, it sucks.
While
Probably
inside,
going to take
teams
them a
will also
while.
refresh the flight termination system and replace
I mean, it's
several
good they caught
batteries
it,
in both
obviously.
the rocket and spacecraft
Would have been
before rolling back out
catastrophic.
to the pad in preparation for a potential launch in April.
All right, well, I guess they're still pushing for April.
It's on its way back to Earth this week aboard a SpaceX Dragon spacecraft. After undocking on Thursday, Dragon is set to splash down off the coast of California on Friday, wrapping up NASA's 33rd Commercial Resupply Services mission. During its time in orbit, the spacecraft also performed 6 reboost maneuvers, helping maintain the station's altitude and supporting safe, long-term operations.
And I think that's all done automatically.
Among the research returning to Earth is Bionutrients 3, which explores producing essential nutrients on demand in space, and the Moon Microscope, which successfully tested a portable blood analysis kit designed to support astronaut health on future missions to the Moon and Mars. And at NASA's Armstrong Flight Research Center in California, researchers are flight testing a new wing design that could reduce drag and cut fuel costs for the airliners of tomorrow. The concept maximizes laminar flow, keeping air moving smoothly across the wing surface to improve efficiency. To evaluate the design in real flight conditions, engineers scaled the wing down to about 3 feet and mounted it beneath one of the center's F-15B research jets. The data collected during these flights will be shared with the U.S. aviation industry and research community, helping shape the next generation of safer, more efficient aircraft. Every test, every mission, and every breakthrough strengthens America's position at the forefront of exploration and discovery. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Awesome. Well, there you go. There's an update from NASA. That's what they've been up to this week. And I've only got one more. It's not a video, it's just an image. The cosmos gifted us a rose. This rose is made of a pair of interacting galaxies that have been distorted by each other's gravitational poles. Learn more about these cosmic companions at science.nasa.gov. A rose made of galaxies highlights Hubble's 21st anniversary. And this isn't Hubble's 21st anniversary. Like Hubble's like almost 40 or over, no, almost 40 years old. I think it launched in like 1991 or something like that. Maybe 1989. It was a long time ago. In celebration of the 21st anniversary of the Hubble Space Telescope's deployment into space, astronomers at the Space Telescope Science Institute in Baltimore, Maryland, pointed Hubble's eye to an especially photogenic group of interacting galaxies called ARP-273. The larger of the spiral galaxies, known as UGC 1810, has a disk that is tidally distorted into a rose-like shape by the gravitational tidal pole of the companion galaxy below it, known as UGC 1813. A swath of blue jewels across the top is combined light from clusters of intensely bright and hot young blue stars. These massive stars glow fiercely in ultraviolet light, as you can see up here at the top. Those are brand new stars, young stars, probably from this galaxy passing closely by the primary galaxy. I'm sure this is in the process of these two galaxies merging together. But anyway, let's see if it says how far away they are. That's what I'm always curious about. Here we go. ARP-273 lies in the constellation Andromeda and is roughly 300 million light years away from Earth. The image shows a tenuous tidal bridge of material between the two galaxies that are separated by tens of thousands of light years from each other. So the distance from this little galaxy to this galaxy, just from here to here, is tens of thousands of light years. So it's still a very unimaginable distance, even though they look like they're just sitting right next to each other from our perspective. And with it being 300 million light years away, that means that this image was as it appeared 300 million years ago. So if we were to teleport ourselves to face in front of these galaxies in its local location, it would be a completely different picture. I would assume that both of these galaxies would be completely merged, and it would be an elliptical galaxy, like a ball-shaped galaxy. Probably wouldn't have any spiral arms or anything like that, because that tends to happen with galaxy mergers. So anyway, I thought that was a cool image that NASA dropped today. I think they dropped that today, right? Yeah, 6 hours ago. So Cosmos gifted us a rose. So that's going to do it for tonight's episode. If you enjoyed tonight's episode, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. And I'll be back on Monday night as we explore the swamp Monday through Friday and everyone in it, the politicians, bureaucrats, the agencies, and the administration. I also post daily on X, which is where you can peek at the content for the next episode. And don't forget, video clips from tonight will begin dropping on the channel tomorrow at 8 a.m. Eastern. Thank you very much for watching. Always remember to stay positive, and God bless America.